The phone shattered against the wall 3 inches from Mia's head. For 6 months, she had convinced herself that Marcus's anger was just stress, that his controlling behavior was love in disguise. But standing in that apartment with glass fragments in her hair and terror flooding her veins, Mia finally saw the truth. The man she loved had become the man she feared. She had exactly 90 seconds to grab her backpack and escape before he came back from the balcony. Next door, Ryan Cole heard everything through the thin walls. The crash, the screaming, the sudden terrible silence. Then came the knock that would change both their lives forever. If you want to know how one night of courage led to the hardest journey of healing and the most unexpected love story, stay with me until the end. Drop a like and comment which city you're watching from. I want to see how far this story travels. The apartment building on Mercer Street had thin walls. Ryan Cole had learned this fact within his first week of living there, 3 years ago, when he'd discovered that his neighbor in 4B apparently believed that Thursday nights were meant for salsa dancing, and Friday mornings were meant for arguing with her mother on speakerphone. He'd learned to sleep with earplugs and to time his morning coffee around the predictable rhythms of other people's lives. But tonight, the silence was different. Ryan stood at his kitchen counter at 11:30 on a Saturday night, spreading peanut butter on graham crackers, his daughter Lily's favorite bedtime snack for when she couldn't sleep. At 5 years old, she had inherited his stubborn streak and his inability to shut off her brain when it was time for rest. She was currently in her bedroom, probably rearranging her stuffed animals by color for the 3rd time this week, waiting for him to bring her just one more snack, Daddy, please. Through the wall, he could usually hear the bass line of whatever music Mia and Marcus were playing. Saturday nights at their place meant friends over, laughter spilling through the thin drywall, the clink of glasses, and the murmur of conversation that always made Ryan feel both comforted and slightly lonely. It was nice knowing that life was happening just a few feet away, even if he wasn't part of it. Tonight, there was nothing. Ryan paused, knife hovering over the jar. He cocked his head, listening. The building's old heating system groaned. A car alarm went off somewhere on the street below, but from 4B, absolute silence. Maybe they went out, he thought. Maybe they're at a party somewhere else. He finished the snack, arranged it on a small plate with the crust cut off the way Lily liked, and carried it down the short hallway to her room. She was sitting up in bed, her dark curls wild around her face, her favorite stuffed elephant clutched to her chest. "Daddy, I heard a loud noise," she said, her brown eyes wide. Ryan's stomach tightened. "What kind of noise, sweetheart?" "Like something breaking, from the wall." She pointed toward the shared wall with 4B. "It was probably just someone dropping something," Ryan said, keeping his voice light. "Nothing to worry about. Here's your snack." But as he sat on the edge of her bed and watched her eat, he found himself listening harder. The building was old, sounds traveled strangely, and Lily had the imagination of a child who spent too much time creating elaborate stories for her stuffed animals. It was probably nothing. Then he heard it. A muffled sob. The sound of footsteps, heavy, angry footsteps. A door slamming so hard the pictures on Ryan's wall trembled. "Daddy?" Lily's voice was small. "It's okay, baby. Finish your snack. I'm going to check on something, but I'll be right back, okay? Don't get out of bed." He kissed her forehead and walked back toward the living room, his heart beating harder than it should. Through the wall he could hear the echo of something, a voice raised, words he couldn't quite make out, then more footsteps heading down the exterior hallway. Ryan moved to his front door and looked through the peephole. He caught a glimpse of Marcus's broad back disappearing toward the stairwell, moving fast, his shoulders rigid with barely contained rage. The man didn't look back. For a long moment, there was nothing but silence. Then came the knock. It was soft, barely audible, more like someone pressing their hand against the door than actually knocking. Ryan opened it before he could think twice. Mia Bennett stood in his doorway, and for a moment, he didn't recognize her. He'd known Mia for almost 2 years. She'd moved in next door with Marcus about 6 months after Ryan had settled into his own apartment with Lily. They'd become friends in the easy way that neighbors sometimes did, bonding over shared complaints about the building's ancient elevator and the landlord's creative interpretation of reasonable response time. Mia had the kind of warmth that made everyone feel comfortable, the kind of laugh that could fill a room. She worked as a graphic designer at a small agency downtown, and she always remembered Lily's birthday, always asked about her first days of school, always waved when she saw them in the hallway. But the woman standing in front of him now looked like a stranger. Her face was pale, almost gray in the harsh hallway light. Her dark hair, usually carefully styled, was tangled and wild. Her hands were trembling at her sides, and there was something in her expression, a combination of fear and shame and exhaustion, that made Ryan's chest ache. "Can I stay here tonight?" Her voice cracked on the last word. Ryan didn't ask questions. He didn't ask what happened, didn't ask where Marcus was, didn't ask why she was standing in his doorway at nearly midnight, looking like she'd just survived something terrible. He simply stepped back and said, "Of course. Come in." She moved past him into the apartment, and he closed the door behind her, turning the deadbolt and the chain lock with deliberate care. When he turned around, Mia was standing in the middle of his living room, her arms wrapped around herself, her eyes darting toward the shared wall as if she expected it to explode. "Sit down," Ryan said gently. "I'll make you something warm." She sank onto his couch like her legs had given out, and he moved to the kitchen, filling the kettle, pulling out the hot chocolate mix he kept for Lily. His hands were steady, but his mind was racing, cataloging details. The way Mia had flinched when the kettle clinked against the stove. The way her eyes kept moving to the door. The red mark on her cheek that was already darkening toward purple. He'd seen bruises before. He knew what they meant. When the hot chocolate was ready, he brought it to her in Lily's favorite mug, the one with the cartoon elephants, and sat down on the opposite end of the couch, giving her space. "You don't have to tell me anything," he said quietly. "You can just sit here. You're safe." Something in her face crumbled at the word safe. She wrapped her hands around the warm mug, and for a long moment she just stared at the steam rising from the surface. "Daddy?" Ryan turned to see Lily standing in the hallway, her elephant tucked under one arm, her eyes wide as she looked at Mia. "Hey, sweetheart, I thought I told you to stay in bed." "I heard voices." Lily's gaze shifted to Mia's face, and something flickered there. Concern, curiosity, the innocent empathy of a child who hadn't yet learned to look away from other people's pain. "Why is Miss Mia crying?" Ryan opened his mouth to redirect, but Mia spoke first. "I'm okay, Lily." Her voice was rough, but she managed something close to a smile. "I just had a hard night. Your daddy is helping me feel better." Lily nodded solemnly, as if this made perfect sense. "Hot chocolate helps when you're sad. And elephant hugs." She held out her stuffed animal toward Mia. "You can borrow Mr. Trunk. He's very good at hugs." Ryan watched as Mia's eyes filled with tears. She reached out and took the elephant, holding it against her chest. "Thank you, Lily. That's very kind." "Okay, baby girl," Ryan said softly. "Back to bed now. Miss Mia is going to rest here tonight, and we'll all feel better in the morning." Lily patted over, hugged Ryan's leg, then, to his surprise, walked over to Mia and patted her knee gently. "It's okay to be scared," she said, with the profound wisdom of a 5-year-old who had learned this lesson herself. "Daddy always says that brave people are scared too. They just don't let it stop them." Then she turned and disappeared back down the hallway, leaving the two adults in stunned silence. Mia let out a shaky breath. "She's incredible." "She's something," Ryan agreed. "I'm not sure where she gets it. Certainly not from me." "From you," Mia said quietly. "She gets it from you." They sat in silence for a few minutes, the apartment settling around them, the sounds of the city filtering in through the windows. Ryan didn't push, didn't prod, didn't fill the space with questions that Mia clearly wasn't ready to answer. He'd learned patience in the years since Lily's mother had left. Learned that sometimes the best thing you could do for someone was simply be present, simply wait, simply let them know they weren't alone. Finally, Mia spoke. "It didn't start like this." Her voice was barely above a whisper. "In the beginning, he was so gentle, attentive. He made me feel like I was the center of his world." Ryan said nothing. He kept his body language open, his expression neutral, his attention entirely on her. "The first time he criticized me, I thought he was just being honest. He said my dress was too revealing, that other men were looking at me in a way that made him uncomfortable. I thought he was being protective." She laughed, but there was no humor in it. "I changed my dress. I started asking him what he thought before I bought clothes, and somehow that became normal. She took a sip of the hot chocolate, her hand still trembling slightly around the mug. Then it was my friends. He said they were a bad influence, that they didn't really care about me, that they were just using me. One by one, I stopped seeing them. I told myself it was because I was busy with work, because I wanted to spend more time with him. But the truth was, I was scared of how he would react if I went out without him. Ryan felt something cold settle in his chest. He'd seen the progression before, not firsthand, but close enough. His sister had dated a man like this once, years ago, the way she'd slowly shrunk, slowly disappeared, until the day she'd shown up at his door with a black eye and nowhere else to go. Then the phone, Mia continued. He started checking my messages, my emails, my social media. He said it was because he loved me, because he wanted to make sure I was safe. And I believed him. I actually believed him. She set down the mug and pressed her palms against her eyes. It's been 6 months. 6 months of walking on eggshells, trying to be perfect, trying to be exactly what he wanted. And no matter what I did, it was never enough. Everything was my fault. Every fight, every bad day at work, every time his dinner wasn't exactly right, it was all because I wasn't trying hard enough. Mia, Ryan said quietly, none of that was your fault. She looked at him, and there was something raw in her eyes, a mixture of gratitude and disbelief, as if she'd forgotten that kindness was possible. Tonight he came home angry about something at work. I could tell the moment he walked in the door. He'd been drinking. I could smell it on him, and I tried to stay quiet, tried to stay out of his way, tried to make myself invisible. But he wanted a fight. He was looking for a reason to explode. She paused, her breath catching. He grabbed my phone off the counter and started going through it again. There was a text from a coworker, a guy I've worked with for 2 years, asking about a project. Just a work text. But Marcus lost it. He started screaming, calling me names, saying I was cheating on him. And when I tried to explain, when I tried to defend myself, her hand moved to her cheek, touching the bruise there. He didn't hit me. Not this time. But he threw his phone at the wall and it shattered right next to my head. And I finally saw it. I finally saw what I'd been refusing to see for months. If I stayed, it was going to get worse. It was always going to get worse. Ryan's jaw tightened. He forced himself to stay still, to stay calm, even as anger burned in his chest. Not at Mia, never at Mia, but at the man who had made her feel like she had to explain herself, like she had to justify her fear. What happened then? He went out to the balcony, to smoke, to cool off? I don't know. And I had maybe 90 seconds. I grabbed my backpack. I always keep it packed now. I don't even know when I started doing that. And I ran. You came here. She nodded and her voice broke. I didn't know where else to go. My cousin is in Portland, but I can't drive tonight. I can't think straight. I needed somewhere safe. I'm sorry, Ryan. I'm sorry to put this on you. I know you have Lily, and you don't need this kind of drama in your life. Stop. Ryan's voice was firm but gentle. You have nothing to apologize for. You did the right thing. You got out. And you can stay here as long as you need. I'll leave tomorrow. I'll take the bus to Portland, stay with my cousin until I figure things out. That's a good plan. But tonight, you rest. You don't have to think about tomorrow until tomorrow. She looked at him for a long moment, something shifting in her expression. Why are you being so kind to me? Ryan considered the question. He thought about the years since Sarah had left, the years of learning to be both mother and father to Lily, the years of building a life that was stable and predictable and safe. He thought about the way Mia had always smiled at his daughter, the way she'd brought over cookies on Lily's birthday, the way she'd never once made him feel judged for being a single dad who sometimes wore mismatched socks and forgot to brush his hair. Because that's what friends do, he said simply, and because you deserve kindness. Everyone does. Mia's eyes filled with tears again, but this time she didn't try to hide them. She let them fall, let herself feel whatever she was feeling, and Ryan sat with her in the silence, bearing witness to her pain without trying to fix it. After a while, she spoke again. I'm so tired, Ryan. I'm so tired of being afraid. I know, but you don't have to be afraid tonight. You're safe here. I promise. He got up and retrieved a blanket from the hall closet, along with a pillow from his own bed. Mia watched him with something like wonder, as if she'd forgotten that simple acts of care existed in the world. "Thank you," she whispered. "I don't know how to thank you." "You don't have to. Just get some rest." He turned toward his bedroom, then paused. "Mia, can I say one thing?" She looked up at him, her face still pale, but something steadier in her eyes. "What you did tonight, leaving, that took courage. Most people don't understand how hard it is to walk away from something like that. But you did it, and that means something. Don't forget that." She nodded, her hand tightening around the stuffed elephant Lily had given her. "Good night, Ryan." "Good night, Mia." He closed his bedroom door behind him and stood in the darkness, listening to the sounds of the apartment settling, listening to the silence from next door. His hands were shaking now, the adrenaline of the past hour finally catching up to him. He thought about Marcus, about the rage in those footsteps, about the bruise blooming on Mia's cheek. He thought about what might have happened if she hadn't left, if she'd stayed one more night, one more week, one more month. And he thought about Lily, asleep in her room with her stuffed animals and her innocent faith that the world was a safe place, and he made a silent promise to do whatever it took to keep it that way. The morning came slowly, gray Seattle light filtering through the curtains. Ryan woke before his alarm, as he usually did, and lay in bed for a few minutes, listening. The apartment was quiet. From beyond his door he could hear nothing, no movement, no sound from the couch where Mia had been sleeping. He got up carefully, pulled on a hoodie over his sleep shirt, and opened his door. Mia was awake, sitting on the couch with her legs curled beneath her, staring out the window at the rain-slicked streets below. She'd folded the blanket neatly, placed the pillow on top, and was still holding Mr. Trunk against her chest. "Hey," Ryan said softly, not wanting to startle her. She turned, and he saw that the bruise on her cheek had deepened overnight, purple and blue spreading toward her eye. But there was something different in her expression, something steadier, more resolved. "I didn't sleep much," she admitted, "but I did a lot of thinking." "And?" "I need to go to Portland, today. My cousin said I can stay with her for as long as I need. I'll figure out work remotely. My boss has been wanting me to try working from home anyway, and I'll start over. I don't know how, but I'll figure it out." Ryan nodded. "That sounds like a solid plan." "There's a bus at 11:30. I checked on my phone," she paused. "I was hoping... Would you mind driving me to the station? I know it's a lot to ask, but I don't want to wait outside for a rideshare, and I don't know if Marcus is out there, and..." "Of course," Ryan said immediately. "I'll drive you." Relief flooded her face. "Thank you. Again. I feel like I've been saying that all night." "You don't have to keep thanking me. This is what friends do." She smiled, small but genuine. "You keep saying that." "Because it's true." Lily appeared in the hallway then, still in her pajamas, her hair an impressive tangle of curls. She surveyed the scene with the serious expression of a child who was trying to understand something complicated. "Is Miss Mia staying for breakfast?" she asked. Ryan looked at Mia. "If she wants to." "I'd like that," Mia said. "Very much." They made pancakes together, Ryan at the stove, Lily helping by stirring the batter with more enthusiasm than precision, and Mia sitting at the counter, watching them with an expression that made Ryan's heart twist in his chest. He wondered when the last time was that she'd had a normal morning, a morning without walking on eggshells, without fear. "Daddy makes the best pancakes," Lily announced, climbing onto her stool and attacking her plate with gusto. "He puts chocolate chips in them and makes them into animal shapes. See? This one's a bunny." Mia looked at the vaguely bunny-shaped pancake on her own plate and laughed. A real laugh, surprised out of her. "It's perfect," she said. "The best bunny I've ever seen." They ate in companionable silence, the rain tapping against the windows, the kitchen warm with the smell of maple syrup and coffee. For a little while, it almost felt normal, almost felt like a regular Sunday morning, like there wasn't a man one wall away who had made the woman across the table afraid for her life. After breakfast, Ryan cleaned up while Lily entertained Mia with elaborate stories about her stuffed animals. Mr. Trunk, apparently, had been on many adventures, including a trip to the moon and a diplomatic mission to resolve a conflict between the penguins and the polar bears. The penguins were being very stubborn, Lily explained solemnly. But Mr. Trunk helped them understand that everyone deserves a place to live. That's very wise, Mia said, and there was something in her voice that made Ryan pause at the sink. She was looking at Lily with a mixture of affection and sorrow, and he realized she was thinking about what she didn't have: a family, a home, a future that felt safe. Lily, Ryan said, drying his hands on a dish towel, why don't you go get dressed? We're going to take Miss Mia somewhere important, and then maybe we'll stop for ice cream on the way home. Ice cream? In the morning? Special occasion? Lily didn't need to be told twice. She vanished down the hallway, and Ryan heard her bedroom door close. You don't have to do that, Mia said. Take me to the station. I can… Mia. He sat down across from her, meeting her eyes. I want to help. Please let me. She was quiet for a moment, then nodded. Okay, thank you. Can I ask you something? Yes. What happens when Marcus realizes you're gone? When he comes back and finds the apartment empty? Mia's expression tightened. I don't know. He'll be angry. He'll probably try to call me, text me. I blocked his number last night, but he might try to find me. She paused. He doesn't know about my cousin in Portland. At least, I don't think he does. I stopped talking about my family months ago because he always had something negative to say. Good. That gives you some protection? Ryan hesitated. But you should know, if he comes knocking on my door, I'm not going to tell him anything. I'll play dumb. I never saw you. Don't know where you are. Ryan, I don't want you to get involved. He can be unpredictable. I can handle it. His voice was calm, certain. What I can't handle is the thought of him finding you. So you focus on getting to Portland, getting settled, getting safe. Let me worry about this end. She stared at him for a long moment, something unreadable in her eyes. Why do you care so much? We're just neighbors. You barely know me. Ryan thought about the question, about the many ways he could answer it. Because she was his friend. Because she deserved better. Because he'd seen what happened when people looked the other way, and he'd promised himself years ago that he would never be that person. But what he said was simpler. Because my daughter thinks you're wonderful, and she's an excellent judge of character. Mia laughed, a sound that was half sob. She's the wonderful one. Yeah, Ryan agreed. She is. But the bus station was crowded with Sunday travelers, families returning from weekend trips, college students heading back to school, an elderly couple wrestling with oversized luggage. Ryan carried Mia's backpack while Lily held her hand, chattering about everything and nothing, filling the silence with the kind of innocent commentary that only children could provide. That man has a funny hat. Look, Daddy, a pigeon. Why do pigeons bob their heads like that? Miss Mia, do you like pigeons? Mia answered each question with patience and warmth, and Ryan found himself watching her, the way she crouched down to Lily's level, the way she made his daughter feel seen and heard, the way she smiled despite everything she was going through. When they reached the platform, Mia's bus was already boarding. This is it, she said, turning to face them. Lily threw her arms around Mia's waist. I'll miss you, Miss Mia. Will you come back and visit? Mia's face crumpled for just a moment before she pulled herself together. I hope so, sweetheart. I really hope so. She looked at Ryan over Lily's head. Thank you for everything. Stay safe, he said, and keep me updated. I want to know you're okay. I will. She took her backpack from him, adjusting the straps on her shoulders. The bruise on her face was impossible to hide in the harsh station lighting, and Ryan saw a few people glance at her with curiosity or concern, but Mia held her head high, her jaw set with determination. Mia? She paused, already turning toward the bus. You're going to be okay. I know it doesn't feel like it right now, but you're going to be okay. She nodded, her eyes bright with unshed tears. I'm going to try to be. And then she was gone, disappearing into the bus, finding a seat by the window. Ryan lifted Lily onto his hip so she could wave, and they stayed there on the platform until the bus pulled away, until it turned the corner and disappeared into the gray Seattle morning. Daddy? Lily said, resting her head on his shoulder. Yeah, baby? Is Miss Mia going to be okay? Ryan thought about the question, about all the things he couldn't promise, all the uncertainties that lay ahead. I think so, he said finally, She's very brave, and she has people who care about her. Like us? Like us. Lily was quiet for a moment, processing this in her own way. Can we still get ice cream? Ryan laughed, and the sound felt strange after the weight of the morning. Yeah, baby, we can still get ice cream. They walked back to the car, hand in hand, and Ryan tried not to think about the empty apartment next door, the man who would return to find his control slipping away, the storm that was surely coming. One thing at a time, he told himself, just one thing at a time. The days that followed were quiet. Too quiet, Ryan thought, as he settled into his usual routine. Work at the architecture firm, picking up Lily from kindergarten, making dinner, bath time, bedtime, repeat. The apartment next door stayed silent. He heard Marcus come and go, heard the occasional slam of a door or muffled curse, but there were no more parties, no more music, no more laughter. It should have felt like a relief. Instead, it felt like waiting. Mia texted him on Tuesday night. Made it to Portland safely. Cousin's place is small but clean. Starting therapy next week. Thank you again for everything. He replied, Glad you're safe. Take care of yourself. We're here if you need anything. We meaning him and Lily. He'd told his daughter that Miss Mia had gone to visit family, that she'd be away for a while, and Lily had accepted this with the flexible understanding of a 5-year-old. But sometimes Ryan caught her looking at the wall they shared with 4B, a thoughtful expression on her small face. Daddy? Yeah, baby? Is the angry man still next door? Ryan's heart clenched. What do you mean? I heard him talking loud through the wall. He sounded mad. He's just having a hard time, sweetheart. Some people don't know how to handle their feelings. Miss Mia went away because he scared her, didn't she? Children, Ryan had learned, saw more than adults gave them credit for. She went away because she needed to feel safe, he said carefully, and that was the right thing for her to do. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is leave a situation that isn't good for you. Lily nodded slowly, absorbing this. Is that why Mommy left? The question hit Ryan like a physical blow. He set down the book he'd been pretending to read and turned to face his daughter fully. That was different, baby. Mommy left because she wasn't ready to be a mommy. It wasn't about you. It was never about you. But she didn't feel safe? I think she didn't feel ready, and she thought you and I would be happier without her. He reached out, tucked a curl behind her ear. But I want you to know something important. I will never, ever leave you, no matter what. You understand? Lily crawled into his lap, pressing her face against his chest. I know, Daddy. You're my person. And you're mine. They stayed like that for a long time, while the rain fell outside and the apartment next door stayed silent. On Friday, Ryan ran into Marcus. He was coming back from the office, briefcase in one hand, dry cleaning in the other, when the elevator doors opened and Marcus stepped in. For a moment, they just looked at each other, two men who had nodded in passing 100 times but had never really spoken. Marcus looked different, thinner somehow. Darker under the eyes. There was a nervous energy about him that made Ryan's skin prickle. Hey, Marcus said as the elevator began its ascent. Ryan, right? From 4C? That's me. You haven't seen Mia around, have you? My girlfriend? Ryan kept his expression neutral. Can't say I have. Everything okay? She left. Marcus's voice was tight, controlled. Just took off without a word, didn't leave a note, didn't tell me where she was going. I've been trying to reach her, but she's blocked my number. Huh. Ryan shifted his dry cleaning to his other hand. That's strange. I'm worried about her. She's been unstable lately, making things up, telling lies about me to people. Marcus's eyes locked onto Ryan's, searching. She didn't say anything to you. You two seemed friendly. Ryan felt the danger in the question, the accusation beneath the surface. We're neighbors, he said carefully. We say hi in the hallway. That's about it. I've got my hands full with my kid. Don't have much time for socializing. The elevator dinged and the doors opened onto their floor. If you see her, Marcus said, stepping out first, tell her I just want to talk. Tell her I'm sorry. Tell her whatever she thinks happened, it was a misunderstanding. Sure thing, Ryan said. I'll let you know. He walked past Marcus to his own door, unlocked it, and stepped inside. Only when the door was closed and bolted behind him did he let out the breath he'd been holding. That night he texted Mia. Ran into Marcus. He was asking questions, said you left without a word. I played dumb, told him I barely know you. Her response came an hour later. I knew he'd try something. Thank you for not saying anything. I'm being careful here, staying off social media, using my cousin's address for everything. Please be careful too. He's not above doing something stupid. I can handle myself, Ryan typed back. Focus on you. But after he sent it, he double-checked the locks on the door and made sure the chain was in place. 2 weeks passed. Lily started asking about Miss Mia less frequently, distracted by the approach of spring break and the promise of a trip to the zoo. Ryan threw himself into work, taking on extra projects, staying late when his mother could watch Lily, filling the hours with anything that would keep him from thinking about the silence next door. But he thought about it anyway. He thought about Mia in Portland, rebuilding her life from scratch. He thought about the courage it had taken her to leave, the fear she must still carry every day. He thought about the bruise on her cheek, the way she'd flinched at every sound, the look in her eyes when Lily had given her that stuffed elephant. And he thought about something else too, something he wasn't quite ready to name. A feeling that had settled into his chest the night she'd knocked on his door. A feeling that had only grown in the days since she'd left. He missed her. It was ridiculous, he told himself. They'd barely known each other. They'd been neighbors, nothing more. The kind of casual friendship built on borrowed cups of sugar and complaints about parking. But somehow, in the span of a single night, something had shifted. He'd seen who she really was beneath the careful facade she showed the world, and he couldn't unsee it. The apartment felt emptier now. Not just because of the silence from next door, but because of the absence of something he hadn't realized he'd been hoping for. Get a grip, Cole, he told himself. She's going through hell. The last thing she needs is you developing feelings. So he pushed it down, locked it away, focused on Lily and work and the business of staying alive. And he waited for whatever came next. Hasbad. The call came on a Thursday night, 3 weeks after Mia had left. Ryan was in the kitchen, helping Lily with her homework, kindergarten homework, which mostly consisted of coloring shapes and practicing writing her name, when his phone buzzed on the counter. Mia's name appeared on the screen. Hello. Ryan. Her voice was steadier than it had been, stronger. I wanted to give you an update and to thank you again. You don't have to keep thanking me. I know, but I want to. She paused. I started therapy last week. It's hard, but I think it's helping. I'm starting to understand things I couldn't see before. That's good. That's really good. I got a call from my landlord yesterday. Marcus moved out. He's gone. Ryan felt something unknot in his chest. Where did he go? I don't know. I don't care. The point is, he's not next door anymore. Which means... She trailed off. Which means you might come back. Not yet. I'm not ready, but someday, maybe. I still have to figure out what I want my life to look like, who I want to be. I spent so long being the person he wanted me to be that I forgot who I was before him. Take all the time you need, Ryan said. There's no rush. I know, but I wanted you to know that I'm thinking about it, about Seattle, about another pause, about you and Lily. You've been on my mind a lot. Ryan didn't know what to say to that. His heart was doing something complicated in his chest, something he didn't have words for. We've been thinking about you too, he managed. Lily asks about you every few days. She wants to know if you're okay. Tell her I'm getting there. Tell her Mr. Trunk helped a lot. Ryan smiled despite himself. I'll tell her. Ryan? Yeah? When I left that night, you told me I was brave. I didn't believe you then, but I'm starting to now. I'm starting to understand that leaving wasn't giving up. It was fighting back. And I'm not going to let what he did define the rest of my life. That's the Mia I always knew was there, Ryan said quietly. Underneath all of it, she was quiet for a long moment. Thank you for seeing me when I couldn't see myself. Always. They said goodbye and Ryan set his phone down on the counter. Lily was watching him with her curious brown eyes. Was that Miss Mia? Yeah, baby, it was. Is she coming home? Ryan thought about the question, about all the ways home could be defined. A place, a feeling, a person. Someday, he said. When she's ready. Lily nodded, satisfied with this answer, and went back to coloring her shapes. And Ryan stood at the counter, looking at the wall that used to separate him from chaos and fear and violence, and felt something shift in his chest. Not hope, exactly. Not yet. But something like it. Something like the first light of dawn after a very long night. The week stretched into a month, then two. Spring arrived in Seattle with its usual gray persistence, rain giving way to more rain, punctuated by occasional afternoons when the sun broke through and the whole city seemed to exhale. Ryan watched the seasons shift from his apartment window, watched Lily grow taller and more curious and more like her own person with each passing day, and tried not to think too much about the empty apartment next door. Marcus had left, but his absence felt almost as heavy as his presence had been. The landlord had shown the apartment to a string of potential tenants. Ryan had seen them in the hallway, couples and singles, and one family with 3 kids who had looked at the place and apparently decided against it. But no one had moved in yet. The space remained vacant, a hollow reminder of everything that had happened within those walls. Mia texted regularly now, usually late at night when Portland had gone quiet and she was alone with her thoughts. She told him about therapy, about the work she was doing to untangle the knots Marcus had tied in her mind. She told him about her cousin Elena, who had become more like a sister in the weeks they'd spent together. She told him about her job, which she'd managed to keep by working remotely, and about the small apartment she'd found near the waterfront, and about the way the city was starting to feel like home. What she didn't talk about was coming back. Ryan understood. He told himself he understood. She needed time. She needed space. She needed to rebuild herself before she could even think about building anything else. But late at night, when the apartment was quiet and Lily was asleep and he was alone with his own thoughts, he found himself wondering if she would ever return at all. Then one evening his phone rang. It was a Wednesday, ordinary in every way. Ryan was at the stove making spaghetti, Lily's favorite, which she insisted on having at least twice a week, while his daughter sat at the kitchen table, drawing pictures of what she claimed was a family of butterflies, but looked more like colorful blobs with antennae. When he saw Mia's name on the screen, his heart did something strange. "Hey," he said, tucking the phone between his shoulder and ear as he stirred the sauce. "Everything okay?" "Everything's fine." Her voice was different somehow, lighter, more sure of itself. "Better than fine, actually. I have news." "Good news?" "I think so, I hope so." She paused, and he could hear her taking a breath. "There's a design conference in Seattle next month. My company wants to send me. It's only 3 days, but I thought maybe we could see each other, if you want." Ryan's hand stilled on the spoon. "Of course I want," he said. "Lily will be thrilled." "What about you?" The question hung in the air between them, weighted with everything they hadn't said in 2 months of texts and calls and careful, friendly distance. "I'll be thrilled too," he said quietly. "I've missed you, Mia." She was silent for a long moment. "I've missed you too. More than I expected to, more than I maybe should." Ryan didn't know how to respond to that, so he said nothing. Sometimes silence was its own kind of answer. "I should go," Mia said finally. "I just wanted to tell you. The conference is June 15th through 17th. I'll send you the details." "I'll be here." "I know you will." Her voice softened. "That's one of the things I've been thinking about. How you're always there. How you've always been there, even when I didn't know I needed someone to be." "Mia, we'll talk when I get there. There's a lot I want to say, but I want to say it in person. Is that okay?" "That's okay. Good night, Ryan." "Good night." He hung up and stood at the stove for a long moment, the sauce bubbling forgotten in front of him, his mind racing with possibilities he hadn't let himself consider before. "Daddy?" Lily's voice broke through his thoughts. "Is the spaghetti burning?" Ryan blinked, looked down at the sauce, and quickly turned off the heat. "Almost," he admitted. "Good catch, baby." "You were talking to Miss Mia, weren't you?" "How did you know?" Lily shrugged, a gesture far too sophisticated for a 5-year-old. "You always smile different when you talk to her." Ryan opened his mouth to deny it, then closed it again. Out of the mouths of babes, he thought. She's coming to visit, he said instead. Next month. She wants to see us. Lily's face lit up. Really? Is she staying with us? Can she sleep in my room? I'll share my bed with her. Or she can have my bed and I'll sleep on the floor. I don't mind. Slow down, sweetheart. She's coming for work, so she'll probably stay at a hotel. But we'll definitely see her. Maybe we can have dinner together. Can we make pancakes? The bunny ones? Maybe. We'll see. Ryan served the spaghetti, and they ate together at the small kitchen table, Lily chattering about her day and her friends, and the elaborate drama unfolding between the stuffed animals in her bedroom. But Ryan's mind was elsewhere, circling around the conversation with Mia, around the words she'd said and the ones she hadn't. More than I expected to. More than I maybe should. What did that mean? What did he want it to mean? He thought about Sarah, about the way she'd left without warning, disappearing one morning before Lily was old enough to remember her face. He thought about the years since then, the careful walls he'd built around his heart, the way he'd convinced himself that he and Lily were enough, that they didn't need anyone else. But maybe, he thought now, maybe need wasn't the right word. Maybe the question wasn't whether they needed someone else, but whether they wanted someone else. Whether there was room in their carefully constructed world for something more. He didn't have an answer, but for the first time in a long time, he was willing to find out. The weeks leading up to the conference passed in a blur of ordinary moments. Lily finished kindergarten with a report card full of gold stars and a handmade book about her favorite adventures with Mr. Trunk. Ryan completed a major project at work, a community center design that had consumed most of his creative energy for the past 6 months. The days grew longer, the rain less constant, and Seattle began its annual transformation into the kind of city that made people forget how gray it was for most of the year. Through it all, Ryan and Mia continued to talk. Their conversation shifted gradually, the way water wears down stone, not all at once, but moment by moment, until the landscape was unrecognizable from what it had been before. They talked about their days, their hopes, their fears. They talked about childhood memories and adult disappointments, and the strange ways that life had brought them to this point. They talked about everything except the thing that was growing between them, the thing that neither of them seemed quite ready to name. And then suddenly, it was June. Mia's text arrived on a Thursday morning. Flight lands at 2:15, conference starts tonight with a cocktail thing I have to attend. But I'm free Saturday. Dinner? Ryan typed back. We'll be there. Lily's already picked out her dress. Tell her I can't wait to see it. And her. And you. Saturday arrived with perfect June weather, blue sky, gentle breeze, the kind of day that made Ryan want to believe in happy endings. He spent the morning cleaning the apartment, not because he expected Mia to come over, but because nervous energy needed an outlet. Lily helped by rearranging her stuffed animals and changing her outfit 4 times before settling on a yellow sundress with daisies on the hem. How do I look? She asked, twirling in front of the bathroom mirror. Like a princess, Ryan said. A sunflower princess. Sunflowers are my favorite because they always look at the sun. Miss Mia told me that once. She said people should be like sunflowers, always looking for the light. Ryan felt something catch in his chest. She told you that? Uh-huh. Before she went away. She said that sometimes there's lots of clouds, but the sun is always there. You just have to remember to keep looking up. He crouched down to his daughter's level, straightening the ribbon in her hair. You remember everything, don't you? I remember the important things, Lily said solemnly. That's what Mr. Trunk says too. But Ryan smiled despite himself. What else does Mr. Trunk say? He says that love isn't scary if you're brave enough. And he says that families don't have to look the same to be real. And he says, okay. Ryan held up his hands in mock surrender. I get it. Mr. Trunk is very wise. The wisest, Lily agreed. They drove to the restaurant Mia had chosen, a small Italian place in Capitol Hill that she remembered from before, from the life she'd lived before Marcus had convinced her that her taste didn't matter, that only his opinions were worth having. She'd told Ryan about it in one of their late-night calls, how she'd loved this restaurant but hadn't been in years because Marcus hated Italian food and refused to let her go without him. I want to reclaim it, she'd said. Does that sound stupid? It sounds exactly right, he'd replied. Now, walking through the door with Lily's hand in his, Ryan scanned the room for Mia's face. He found her at a corner table, and for a moment he forgot how to breathe. She looked different. Not physically. Her dark hair was the same, her brown eyes the same, the curve of her smile unchanged. But there was something in the way she held herself, something in the set of her shoulders and the lift of her chin that spoke of transformation. The woman who had knocked on his door that night 2 months ago had been crumbling, barely holding herself together. This woman was whole. This woman was strong. This woman was beautiful. "Miss Mia!" Lily broke away from Ryan's grip and launched herself across the restaurant, wrapping her arms around Mia's waist with abandon. "You're here! You're really here!" Mia laughed, the sound bright and clear, and crouched down to return the hug properly. "I'm here, sweetheart. I missed you so much. Look how tall you've gotten." "I grew 2 whole inches," Lily announced proudly. "Daddy had to mark it on the wall. And I lost a tooth, see?" She opened her mouth wide, pointing to the gap in her bottom row. "Wow, the tooth fairy must have been very busy. She brought me a whole $1, and she left sparkles on my pillow. Daddy says it's just glitter, but I know it's real fairy dust." Ryan reached them then, and Mia stood to face him. For a moment, they just looked at each other, 2 months of absence and longing and unspoken words hanging in the air between them. "Hi," she said softly. "Hi. You look good. You look—" He shook his head. "There aren't words." Her cheeks flushed, and she ducked her head the way she used to, before Marcus had taught her that her emotions were weaknesses to be hidden. But this time, she looked up again almost immediately, meeting his eyes with something like courage. "Shall we sit?" They sat. Dinner was easier than Ryan had expected. Lily dominated the conversation, as 5-year-olds tended to do, regaling Mia with stories about her summer adventures, the trip to the zoo, the discovery of a cat in the neighbor's yard, the ongoing saga of the stuffed animal kingdom. Mia listened with genuine interest, asking questions, laughing at the funny parts, expressing appropriate concern during the dramatic moments. "And then what happened?" she asked, when Lily had reached a particularly tense point in the narrative involving Mr. Trunk and a rogue penguin who had refused to share the pretend fish. "Mr. Trunk told him that sharing was important," Lily explained, "and that friends don't hoard things. And then the penguin felt bad and gave everyone fish, and they all had a party." "That's a very good resolution. Mr. Trunk is quite the diplomat. He learned from watching Daddy talk to the angry man." The table went quiet. Ryan felt his stomach tighten. He hadn't realized Lily had heard his conversation with Marcus in the elevator that day, hadn't known she'd been paying attention to the tension that had filled their home in the weeks after Mia left. Mia's hand had stilled on her water glass. The angry man? The one who lived next door. The one who made you sad. Lily's voice was matter of fact, the way children's voices often were when they spoke truths that adults tried to avoid. "He came to our door once, but Daddy told him to go away. He said he was looking for you, but Daddy said he didn't know where you were. I was hiding in my room, but I heard everything." Ryan met Mia's eyes across the table. "I didn't know she was listening." "It's okay." Mia reached out and took Lily's hand. "Thank you for telling me that. And thank you for being brave and staying in your room. That was very smart. Daddy said we had to protect you. He said sometimes people are mean to the people they're supposed to love, and that's not okay." Lily tilted her head, studying Mia with those perceptive brown eyes. "Are you safe now?" Something flickered across Mia's face. Grief, maybe, or gratitude, or some combination of both. "Yes, sweetheart, I'm safe now. Thanks to your daddy." "Good," Lily said, satisfied. "Can I have dessert?" The tension broke, and Ryan let out a breath he hadn't realized he'd been holding. "Yes," he said, "you can have dessert." They ordered gelato, chocolate for Lily, pistachio for Mia, vanilla for Ryan, and the conversation drifted to lighter topics. But underneath the surface, something had shifted. The acknowledgement of what had happened, what Marcus had done, what they had all survived. It had cleared the air somehow, had made space for whatever was supposed to come next. After dinner, they walked through the neighborhood as the sun sank toward the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Lily ran ahead, chasing pigeons and examining flowers, giving Ryan and Mia something like privacy. She's incredible, Mia said, watching Lily crouch to study an ant on the sidewalk. You've done such a good job with her. She makes it easy, most of the time. Still, being a single parent, it's not nothing, especially when you're doing it right. Ryan shoved his hands in his pockets. I don't know if I'm doing it right. I just do what seems best and hope I'm not messing her up too badly. That's all any parent can do. Mia was quiet for a moment. I think about that sometimes. What kind of mother I would be. Whether I'd be any good at it. You would, Ryan said without hesitation. You already are, in a lot of ways, with Lily. She looked at him, something unreadable in her expression. Ryan, I need to tell you something. His heart stuttered. Okay. The conference ends tomorrow. I have a flight booked back to Portland on Monday morning. She paused. But I've been thinking about not taking it. What do you mean? They had stopped walking. Lily was still ahead of them, absorbed in her investigation of the natural world, unaware of the conversation happening behind her. I mean that Portland was supposed to be temporary, a place to heal, to figure things out. And I've done that. I've done the work. I've gone to therapy. I've learned to be alone without being lonely. But the whole time I was there, I kept thinking about Seattle, about coming back. To Seattle? To you. The word hung in the air between them, fragile and enormous. I don't want to make this awkward, Mia continued, her words coming faster now, as if she was afraid she'd lose her courage if she stopped. And I know the timing is complicated. I just got out of a terrible relationship, and you have Lily to think about, and we barely know each other in some ways, but in other ways, I feel like I know you better than I've ever known anyone. The way you were there for me that night, the way you've been there since... I've never had that before. I've never had someone who made me feel safe just by existing. Mia, let me finish, please. She took a breath. I didn't come back just for the conference. I came back because I needed to see you. I needed to know if what I've been feeling is real, or if it's just gratitude, or loneliness, or my brain playing tricks on me, and sitting here tonight watching you with Lily, talking to you like no time has passed at all. I know now. It's real. At least for me. Ryan stood very still, processing her words, trying to sort through the tangle of emotions in his chest. Say something, Mia whispered. Please. I've been scared, he said finally. Since Sarah left, I've been scared to let anyone in. Scared of what it would mean for Lily if I tried and failed. Scared of getting hurt again. He met her eyes. But I've also been thinking about you. Every day. Every night. Wondering if I was imagining things, if the connection I felt was one-sided, if I was reading too much into texts and phone calls. It wasn't one-sided. I know that now. He took a step closer. I know that now. Lily came running back then, her face flushed with excitement. Daddy! Miss Mia! I found a ladybug, a real one. It landed on my hand and then it flew away, but I saw it. It was red with black spots and everything. They both looked down at her, this small person who had no idea that her world might be about to change. That's wonderful, sweetheart, Mia said, her voice only slightly unsteady. Ladybugs are good luck, you know. Really? Really, they mean good things are coming. Lily looked from Mia to Ryan and back again, her brow furrowing slightly. Are you two going to be friends forever now? Ryan crouched down to her level. What do you mean? I mean real friends, like a family. Her voice was small, uncertain. Because I think Miss Mia should be in our family, and I think you think so too. And Mr. Trunk agrees. Ryan looked up at Mia, who had tears in her eyes. What do you think? He asked her. Mr. Trunk has spoken. She laughed, the sound watery but genuine. I think, she said slowly, that Mr. Trunk is very wise. And I think that maybe, if your daddy agrees, we should find out what that might look like. Daddy? Ryan stood up, reached out, and took Mia's hand in his. It felt natural, inevitable, like something that should have happened a long time ago. I think we should find out too. Lily cheered, the sound echoing through the quiet street, and several passers-by turned to look at the small family tableau. A man, a woman, and a little girl celebrating something that none of them could quite name yet, but all of them could feel. They walked back to the car as darkness fell, Lily between them now, holding both their hands and swinging slightly with each step. Miss Mia? Yes, sweetheart? Are you going to live with us now? Mia smiled. Not yet. There are still some things I need to figure out, but I'm going to be around a lot more if that's okay with you. It's very okay. Lily was quiet for a moment. Can I tell you a secret? Of course. The little girl leaned in, cupping her hand around her mouth as if sharing great wisdom. I've been wishing for you to come back every night, on stars and birthday candles and everything, and now you're here. So I think wishes really do come true. Mia's grip tightened on Lily's hand. I think so too, sweetheart. I think so too. They reached the car and Ryan helped Lily into her car seat, buckling her in with practiced efficiency. By the time he closed her door, she was already yawning, the excitement of the evening catching up with her. I should get back to the hotel, Mia said, but I don't want to. Stay, Ryan said. Just stay for a while. We could talk, watch a movie, something normal. She smiled. Normal sounds perfect. They drove back to the apartment building, Lily dozing in the back seat, the city lights sliding past the windows. When they arrived, Ryan carried Lily upstairs while Mia followed, and together they tucked the little girl into bed. She was barely conscious, but she managed to mumble one last request. Miss Mia, will you be here when I wake up? Mia looked at Ryan. He nodded. Yes, sweetheart, she said softly. I'll be here. Lily smiled and closed her eyes, asleep within seconds. They retreated to the living room, closing Lily's door quietly behind them. The apartment was dim, lit only by the glow of the city through the windows. Ryan sat on the couch, and after a moment's hesitation, Mia sat beside him, not touching, but close enough that he could feel the warmth of her presence. This feels surreal, she said. 2 months ago, I was standing in the same spot, terrified and broken. And now... Now I feel like I'm home. She turned to look at him. Is that crazy? To feel like a person is home? If it is, then I'm crazy too, because that's exactly how I feel. They sat in silence for a long moment, comfortable in each other's presence. What happens now? Mia asked eventually. I don't know. We figure it out, I guess, together. Together. She tested the word, rolling it around in her mouth like something new and precious. I like the sound of that. Me too. He reached out and took her hand, threading his fingers through hers. She squeezed back, and they sat like that for a long time, watching the city lights and listening to the quiet sounds of the apartment settling around them. Ryan? Yeah? Thank you for not giving up on me, for believing I could be more than what I'd become. He turned to face her, lifting his free hand to cup her cheek. You were always more. You just forgot for a while. And then, slowly, giving her every opportunity to pull away, he leaned in and kissed her. It was soft at first, tentative, two people who had been hurt before, testing the waters of something new. But then Mia's hand came up to the back of his neck, and the kiss deepened, and Ryan felt something unlock in his chest that had been closed for longer than he could remember. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Mia's eyes were bright with unshed tears. I'm scared, she admitted. I'm scared of how much I want this. I'm scared of messing it up. I'm scared of... I know. He pressed his forehead against hers. I'm scared too. But I think maybe being scared together is better than being safe alone. She laughed softly. When did you get so wise? I have a 5-year-old. She teaches me things. They stayed on the couch until nearly midnight, talking and not talking, learning the new geography of what they were becoming. When Mia finally stood to leave, insisting that she needed to get some sleep before her last day of the conference, Ryan walked her to the door. I'm not going back to Portland, she said suddenly, turning to face him. I decided tonight. I'm going to cancel my flight and stay here, find a new apartment, transfer with my job, start over properly. Here, in Seattle. Are you sure? I've never been more sure of anything. She stood on her tiptoes and kissed him once more, quick and sweet. I'll call you tomorrow, after the conference ends. I'll be here. I know. She smiled. That's the best part. And then she was gone, disappearing down the hallway, and Ryan stood in his doorway for a long time, looking at the space she'd left behind and thinking about how empty it had once felt and how full it felt now. He closed the door, checked on Lily one more time, and went to bed. For the first time in years, he fell asleep smiling. The next 3 weeks were a blur of transition. Mia found a small studio apartment a few blocks from Ryan's building, close enough to be convenient, far enough to maintain the independence she'd fought so hard to reclaim. She transferred to her company's Seattle office, unpacked the boxes she'd stored in Elena's garage, and began the slow work of rebuilding a life in the city she'd fled. They dated like normal people, which felt strange and wonderful at the same time. Dinners and movies and walks along the waterfront, breakfast at the diner on the corner, lazy Sunday afternoons at the park while Lily played on the swings. They moved slowly, deliberately, both aware that they were building something that needed a strong foundation. Lily adapted to the new reality with the flexibility of a child who had always wanted more love in her life, not less. She asked questions sometimes about whether Mia was Ryan's girlfriend now, about whether they would get married, about whether Mia would be her new mommy. Ryan answered as honestly as he could, explaining that some things took time, that adults had to be sure before they made big decisions, that loving someone was about more than just words. "But you do love her," Lily said one night, with the certainty of someone stating an obvious truth. "I can tell because you look at her the way princes look at princesses in movies." Ryan didn't know how to respond to that, so he just kissed her forehead and told her it was time for bed. But he thought about it later, in the quiet darkness of his room. Did he love Mia? It felt too soon to use that word, too soon to make declarations that couldn't be taken back. And yet, when he imagined his life without her laugh, her wisdom, her presence in the spaces that had once felt so empty, something in his chest rebelled. Maybe love wasn't always a thunderbolt, he thought. Maybe sometimes it was a slow dawning, a gradual recognition that your life had changed when you weren't paying attention, that someone had become essential without you ever making the conscious decision to let them in. One evening in early July, Mia came over for dinner and stayed late, helping Ryan clean up while Lily played in her room. They worked in comfortable silence, moving around each other in the small kitchen with the ease of people who had learned each other's rhythms. "I need to tell you something," Mia said suddenly, setting down the dish towel. Ryan looked at her, something cold settling in his stomach. "What's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong. It's just—" She took a breath. "I heard from Marcus." The name hit Ryan like a physical blow. He set down the plate he'd been drying and turned to face her fully. "When? How?" "Yesterday. He found my new email somehow, probably through work. He sent me a message." "What did it say?" Mia's jaw tightened. "The usual. He's sorry. He's changed. He wants another chance. He didn't mean any of the things he did. It was all stress and alcohol and temporary insanity." She laughed bitterly. Like 6 months of control and fear was just a bad dream he had. "Did you respond?" "No, I blocked him immediately, but I thought you should know." She met his eyes. "I thought you should know that he's still out there, still thinking about me. And I wanted to be honest with you about it." Ryan closed the distance between them, taking her hands in his. "Thank you for telling me. Are you okay?" "I'm better than okay." Her voice was steady. "A few months ago, a message like that would have sent me spiraling. I would have questioned everything. Was I too harsh? Did I overreact? Should I give him another chance? But now," she shook her head, "now I just feel pity. For him, for the person he could have been if he'd chosen differently. But I don't feel pulled toward him anymore. I don't feel afraid." "That's good. That's really good." "It's because of you." She squeezed his hands. "Because of this. Because I know what it feels like now to be with someone who respects me, who supports me, who makes me feel safe instead of scared. I don't ever want to go back to what I had before." "You won't," Ryan said firmly. "I won't let you. And neither will you." She smiled, and there was something in her expression that made Ryan's breath catch, a depth of emotion that seemed too big for the small kitchen, too big for words. "I love you," she said. The words hung in the air between them, fragile and enormous. "I know it's fast," she continued, I know we said we'd take things slow, but I've been thinking about it for weeks, and I didn't want to keep it inside anymore. You don't have to say it back. I just needed you to know." Ryan was quiet for a long moment, his heart pounding in his chest. Then he pulled her close and kissed her, pouring everything he felt into the contact, gratitude and desire and hope and fear, and something else, something bigger than all of those things combined. When he pulled back, her eyes were shining. "I love you too," he said. "I think I've loved you since the night you knocked on my door. I just didn't have the courage to admit it until now." She laughed, tears spilling down her cheeks, and he wiped them away with his thumbs. "We're quite a pair," she said. "Two scared people trying to be brave together. Best way I know how to be." They held each other in the kitchen, the dishes forgotten, the world outside fading into insignificance. And Ryan thought about how strange life was, how the worst nights could lead to the best mornings, how the things that broke you could also be the things that put you back together. "Daddy!" They sprang apart to find Lily standing in the kitchen doorway, her expression a mixture of curiosity and satisfaction. "Were you guys kissing?" Ryan cleared his throat. Yes, we were." "Good." Lily nodded as if this confirmed something she'd long suspected. "Mr. Trunk said you would. He's very smart about these things." Mia laughed, a sound of pure joy. "Come here, you," she said, opening her arms, and Lily ran into them, completing a circle that Ryan hadn't even known was missing a piece. They stood like that for a long time, the three of them, in the kitchen of the apartment where everything had changed. And Ryan thought about the future stretching out before them. Uncertain, yes, and challenging, definitely, but full of possibility, full of love, full of hope. Outside the window, the Seattle sky was darkening toward night, stars beginning to appear above the city lights. Somewhere out there, the world continued to spin, full of pain and fear, and people making choices they would later regret. But in this small kitchen, in this small apartment, something was beginning that felt bigger than all of that. Something that felt like home. The message from Marcus had planted a seed of unease that Ryan couldn't quite shake. He didn't tell Mia about the nights he spent staring at the ceiling, replaying her words about the email, imagining scenarios where Marcus showed up unannounced, where the fragile happiness they'd built came crashing down around them. He didn't tell her about the way he'd started checking the locks twice before bed, or how he'd begun scanning the street outside their building whenever he came and went. It wasn't that he doubted Mia's resolve. She had shown more strength in the past 3 months than most people showed in a lifetime. But he knew something about people like Marcus, people who believed they were entitled to whatever they wanted, who couldn't accept that someone had chosen to leave them. He knew that rejection only made them more dangerous. 2 weeks after Mia told him about the email, Ryan was picking Lily up from her summer day camp when his phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "We need to talk about Mia. You don't know the whole story." Ryan's blood went cold. He stood frozen in the parking lot, other parents streaming past him, their children chattering about swimming lessons and art projects. Lily tugged at his hand, asking if they could stop for ice cream, but he barely heard her. "Who is this?" he typed back. The response came immediately. "You know who this is, and you know I'm right. She's not who you think she is." Ryan deleted the messages and blocked the number, but his hands were shaking as he helped Lily into the car. Marcus had found him somehow, had gotten his phone number, had figured out how to reach him, which meant he was watching, which meant he was closer than Ryan had thought. He didn't tell Mia about the texts. Not yet. She had been so happy lately, so free, laughing more easily, sleeping without nightmares, talking about the future with a kind of hope that seemed miraculous given everything she'd been through. He couldn't bring himself to shatter that peace with news that would only make her afraid again. But he started paying closer attention to the cars parked on their street, to the faces in the crowds when they walked through the city, to the feeling that sometimes crept up the back of his neck, the sensation of being observed by eyes he couldn't see. A week later, it happened. They were at the farmer's market, all three of them, browsing the vegetable stalls and sampling cheese and watching Lily exclaim over the flower arrangements with the unbridled enthusiasm only a 5-year-old could muster. It was a perfect Saturday morning, sunny and warm, the kind of day that made Seattle feel like the best place in the world to live. Mia had wandered ahead with Lily, the two of them examining a display of handmade jewelry, their heads bent together as they debated the merits of various earrings. Ryan hung back, watching them with a feeling of contentment that still surprised him after all these months. This was his family now, or at least the beginning of one. This was what he'd been too afraid to hope for, finally made real. Then he felt it. That prickle at the back of his neck. That sense of being watched. He turned slowly, scanning the crowd, looking for anything out of place. At first, he saw nothing, just the usual mix of weekend shoppers, families with strollers, elderly couples moving at a leisurely pace. And then his eyes landed on a man standing at the edge of the market, half hidden behind a pillar. Marcus. He looked different than Ryan remembered, thinner, paler, with dark circles under his eyes that spoke of sleepless nights and obsessive thoughts. But it was unmistakably him. And he was staring directly at Mia with an intensity that made Ryan's stomach turn. For a long moment, their eyes met. Ryan saw something flash across Marcus's face, recognition, hatred, something that might have been triumph, and then the man turned and disappeared into the crowd. Ryan's first instinct was to follow, to chase him down, to confront him, to make absolutely clear that if he came near Mia again, there would be consequences. But Lily was here. Mia was here. He couldn't leave them alone. Couldn't risk escalating a situation that might put them in danger. Instead, he walked quickly to where they stood, his heart pounding against his ribs. "We need to go," he said, keeping his voice calm. Mia looked up, her brow furrowing. "What? Why?" "We just got here." "I'll explain later. Please, Mia, trust me." Something in his expression must have conveyed the seriousness of the situation, because she nodded without further argument. They gathered Lily, who protested loudly about leaving before they'd bought anything, and made their way back to the car. Ryan kept scanning the crowd the entire way, but Marcus had vanished. In the car, with the doors locked and the engine running, Mia finally turned to him. "Ryan, what's going on? You're scaring me." He gripped the steering wheel, trying to decide how much to tell her. She deserved the truth, all of it, but he also wanted to protect her from the fear that was currently clawing at his own chest. "I saw Marcus," he said finally. "At the market. He was watching you." Mia's face went white. "What?" "He was standing near the entrance. I don't know how long he'd been there, but he saw us." "He saw you?" Ryan paused. "And there's something else. He's been texting me. Started about a week ago. I didn't want to tell you because you seemed so happy, and I thought maybe he'd just give up if I ignored him." "What did the text say?" "That I don't know the whole story. That you're not who I think you are." Ryan shook his head. "Manipulation tactics. I blocked him immediately, but he obviously didn't take the hint." Mia was quiet for a long moment, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. When she spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. "I thought I was free. I thought when he moved away, when I stopped hearing from him, that it was over. But it's never going to be over, is it? He's never going to let me go." "Hey," Ryan reached over and took her hand. "Look at me." She turned and he saw the fear in her eyes, the old fear, the one she'd worked so hard to overcome. "This doesn't change anything. He's trying to scare you, to make you feel powerless again. But you're not powerless. You have me, you have Lily. You have a whole life that has nothing to do with him. And we're going to figure this out together." "How?" "We document everything. The texts, today's sighting, anything else that happens. We talk to the police, see if there's enough for a restraining order. We make sure you're never alone in places where he might find you." Ryan squeezed her hand. "We don't let him win." Lily's voice piped up from the back seat. "Why is the angry man following us?" Ryan and Mia exchanged a look. "He's not following us, sweetheart," Mia said, her voice steadier than Ryan would have expected. "He's just someone who doesn't understand that he needs to leave people alone. But your daddy and I are going to make sure he understands, okay?" "Okay." Lily was quiet for a moment. "Mr. Trunk says that bullies only have power if you're afraid of them. He says the best thing to do is stand up tall and say no." Ryan felt something loosen in his chest despite the circumstances. "Mr. Trunk is very wise," he said, "and we're going to do exactly that." They drove home in tense silence, Lily eventually falling asleep in her car seat, lulled by the motion of the car. Ryan kept checking the rearview mirror, looking for any sign of Marcus's car, but the road behind them remained clear. When they reached the apartment, he insisted on walking Mia to her studio a few blocks away, Lily drowsy on his shoulder. They said goodbye at her door, a quick kiss that carried the weight of everything they hadn't said, and then Ryan walked back to his own building, his daughter's warm body pressed against his chest. That night, after Lily was in bed, he sat at the kitchen table and tried to think clearly. Marcus was escalating. That much was obvious. The texts, the surveillance, the deliberate appearance at a place where he knew Mia would be, these weren't random actions. They were the moves of someone who was building toward something, though Ryan couldn't yet see what. He pulled out his phone and typed a message to Mia. "Are you okay?" Her response came quickly. "Can't sleep. Keep seeing his face. What if he comes to my apartment? He doesn't know where you live, right?" "I don't know. I don't know what he knows anymore." Ryan made a decision. "Pack a bag. Come stay here tonight. You shouldn't be alone." There was a long pause before her reply. "Are you sure? What about Lily? Lily would want you here. So do I." 20 minutes later, there was a soft knock at his door. Mia stood in the hallway with a small overnight bag, looking younger and more vulnerable than he'd seen her in months. "Thank you," she whispered. He pulled her inside, locked the door behind her, and held her close. "We're going to be okay," he said. "I promise." But even as he said the words, he wasn't sure he believed them. The next few days passed in a heightened state of alert. Ryan contacted a lawyer friend who specialized in domestic violence cases, and she helped them file for a restraining order. The documentation was thin. A blocked text message and a single sighting at a public place weren't much to go on, but she assured them it was a start. "The courts take these things seriously now," she said during their meeting, "especially with documented patterns of behavior. You said this started with controlling behavior during the relationship?" Mia nodded, her hands clasped in her lap. "He isolated me from my friends, monitored my phone, criticized everything I did. And the last night, he threw something at me. It shattered against the wall near my head." "Did you report it at the time?" "No, I was too scared. And part of me didn't believe it was really that bad, you know. I kept making excuses for him." The lawyer nodded with the weary understanding of someone who had heard this story countless times before. "That's incredibly common. Abusers are experts at making their victims doubt their own perceptions. But you got out, and that's what matters. Now we just need to make sure he stays away." The restraining order was filed. Marcus would be served with papers requiring him to stay at least 500 feet from Mia at all times. It wasn't a perfect solution. Paper couldn't stop someone determined to cause harm. But it was something. It was a line drawn in the sand. Mia moved back to her own apartment after a few days, insisting that she couldn't hide forever, that she needed to reclaim her space and her independence. Ryan understood, even though every instinct screamed at him to keep her close. "You can call me any time, like," he said, standing at her door on the night she moved back. "Day or night. If anything feels off, if you see anything suspicious, you call me immediately." "I will." "And you'll keep your phone charged and check in with me every few hours?" Mia smiled, though there was a strain around her eyes that hadn't been there before. "You're going to make yourself crazy, Ryan. I'm going to be fine. I have good locks, I have pepper spray, and I have a restraining order being processed. Marcus isn't stupid. He knows that if he violates it, he'll go to jail." "Marcus is obsessed. Obsessed people don't always make logical decisions." "I know." She reached up and cupped his face in her hands. "But I can't let him take everything from me. Not again. I spent 6 months of my life being afraid, walking on eggshells, shrinking myself to fit into the space he allowed me. I won't do that anymore. Not for him, not for anyone." Ryan covered her hands with his own. "I love you for that. I just wish I could protect you from all of this." "You already are, just by being here, just by standing beside me." She kissed him softly. "Now go home and tuck Lily in. I'll text you before bed." He left reluctantly, checking over his shoulder as he walked back to his building, scanning the street for any sign of Marcus's presence. The summer evening was warm and peaceful, families walking dogs and couples strolling hand in hand. Everything looked normal. But Ryan couldn't shake the feeling that something was coming, something he couldn't see or predict or prepare for, something that would test everything they'd built. 3 days later, his phone rang at 2 in the morning. He was already awake, had been lying in bed staring at the ceiling, unable to sleep, when Mia's name appeared on the screen. He answered before the first ring had finished. "What's wrong?" "He was here." Her voice was shaking. "Marcus, he was outside my building. I saw him from my window." Ryan was already pulling on clothes, his heart pounding. "Did he try to come in? Did he see you?" "I don't know. He was just standing there looking up at my window. I turned off all the lights and hid in the bathroom. By the time I looked again, he was gone." "I'm coming over." "Ryan, no. It's the middle of the night. Lily, I'll call my neighbor. Mrs. Patterson watches her sometimes. I'm not letting you stay there alone." He made the call, apologizing profusely to the elderly woman for the late hour, and she agreed to come over immediately. Within 15 minutes, he was in his car, driving through the empty streets toward Mia's apartment. He found her in the hallway outside her door, wrapped in a blanket, her face pale and tear-streaked. "I didn't imagine it," she said as soon as she saw him. "He was really there." "I believe you." He pulled her into his arms. "Have you called the police?" "I called them. They sent someone to drive around the block, but Marcus was already gone. They took my statement and said they'd add it to the file." She laughed bitterly. "Add it to the file. Like that's going to help." "It will help. It's documentation. It's evidence of a pattern." Ryan pulled back to look at her face. "This is a violation of the restraining order. They can arrest him for this. If they can find him, they'll find him." But even as he said it, Ryan felt the cold grip of uncertainty. Marcus was smart. He knew how to play the system, how to skirt the edges of legality, how to make Mia's life a living nightmare without technically breaking any laws. Tonight's appearance might be enough to get him arrested, or it might be dismissed as coincidence, as a man who happened to be walking in the same neighborhood as his ex-girlfriend. They went inside, and Ryan checked every window, every lock, every potential point of entry. Mia sat on the couch, her knees drawn up to her chest, watching him with eyes that were too big in her pale face. "I can't live like this," she said quietly. "I can't spend every night afraid that he's going to appear. I can't keep looking over my shoulder, wondering if today is the day he decides to do something worse." Ryan sat down beside her. "What do you want to do?" "I don't know. Part of me wants to run again. Move somewhere he can't find me, start over, disappear." She shook her head. "But I did that once already. I can't keep running forever, and I don't want to leave, not now, not when—" She trailed off, looking at him with something like desperation. "Not when I finally have something worth staying for." He took her hand. "Then we don't run. We stand our ground. We document everything. We work with the police and the lawyers, and we make it impossible for him to get near you without facing serious consequences." "What if that's not enough?" "Then we figure out what else we need to do. But we do it together. You're not alone in this anymore, Mia. Whatever happens, you're not alone." She leaned against him, her head on his shoulder, and they sat like that until the first light of dawn began to filter through the windows. The next few weeks were a delicate balance of normal life and constant vigilance. Marcus was arrested 2 days after the incident outside Mia's building. The violation of the restraining order was clear enough that even the most skeptical officer couldn't dismiss it. He was held overnight and released on bail, but the arrest seemed to have some effect. For a while, there were no more sightings, no more texts, no more mysterious appearances. Mia began to relax, fraction by fraction. She started sleeping through the night again. She stopped checking over her shoulder every few seconds when they were out in public. She even laughed sometimes, real laughs, the kind that came from deep in her belly and made her eyes crinkle at the corners. Ryan watched her healing with a mixture of relief and lingering worry. He wanted to believe that the worst was over, that Marcus had learned his lesson, that the restraining order and the arrest had been enough to convince him to move on. But something in his gut told him it wasn't that simple. It was Lily who finally said what Ryan had been thinking, but hadn't wanted to voice. They were eating dinner one evening, just the two of them, Mia working late at a project deadline, when his daughter set down her fork and looked at him with those perceptive brown eyes. "Daddy?" "Yeah, baby?" "Is the angry man going to hurt Miss Mia?" Ryan's heart clenched. He set down his own fork, giving his daughter his full attention. What makes you ask that? I heard you talking to Miss Mia on the phone. You said something about him being arrested and getting out and being dangerous. Lily's voice was steady, but there was fear underneath it. I don't want him to hurt her. She's part of our family now. Ryan reached across the table and took her small hand in his. I'm not going to let anyone hurt Miss Mia. Or you. That's my job as your daddy, to keep the people I love safe. But what if he tries? What if he comes here? Then we call the police, and they take him away. And we have locks on our doors and neighbors who look out for us, and each other. He squeezed her hand. Lily, I need you to listen to me. There are bad people in the world, people who try to hurt others because they don't know how to handle their own feelings. But there are also good people who stand up to them, and we're going to be the good people, okay? Lily nodded slowly. Okay. She was quiet for a moment. Mr. Trunk says that sometimes the best thing you can do is be brave for the people you love, even when you're scared. Mr. Trunk is absolutely right. I know. She picked up her fork again. He's the wisest elephant in the whole world. Despite everything, Ryan found himself smiling. That weekend they had planned something special, a small gathering at Ryan's apartment to celebrate Mia's birthday. Nothing elaborate, just the three of them, plus a few of Mia's closest friends, some takeout and cake, and the kind of low-key celebration that felt right for where they all were in life. Mia arrived early, her arms full of grocery bags, her face bright with anticipation. I know it's my birthday, and I'm not supposed to bring anything, she said, setting the bags on the counter. But I couldn't resist. I found this amazing bakery near my office, and they had this cake with layers of chocolate and raspberry, and... She stopped mid-sentence, her eyes landing on something across the room. Ryan turned to look. There, propped against the window, was a small bouquet of flowers, red roses arranged with meticulous care, tied with a black ribbon. Neither of them had put them there. Ryan, Mia whispered, how did those get in here? He moved toward the window, his heart pounding. The window was closed, locked from the inside. There was no way someone could have placed the flowers there without being inside the apartment. Stay here, he said. Don't move. He searched the apartment, room by room, checking every closet, every corner, every space large enough to hide a person. Lily was at Mrs. Patterson's for the afternoon, thank God. The apartment was empty except for the two of them. But the flowers hadn't materialized out of thin air. He returned to the living room to find Mia standing exactly where he'd left her, her face ashen. There's no one here, he said, but someone was. Someone got in. The building has security cameras, in the lobby, in the hallway. I'll talk to the landlord. We'll review the footage. He moved to the flowers, careful not to touch them. There might be a card. There was. A small white envelope tucked among the stems. Ryan pulled it out with his sleeve, protecting any potential fingerprints, and opened it. The message inside was typed, not handwritten. Happy birthday, Mia. No matter where you run, I'll always find you. We belong together. You know it. I know it. Soon, everyone will know it. Forever yours. Mia made a sound, something between a sob and a scream, and Ryan was at her side in an instant, pulling her against him. He was in here, she gasped. He was in your home, where Lily sleeps, where... I know. His mind was racing, trying to process the implications. Marcus had somehow gotten into the building, into the apartment, without being detected. He had left flowers and a note like some twisted romantic gesture, and then he had vanished. This was no longer harassment. This was escalation into something far more dangerous. We're calling the police, Ryan said. Right now, and then we're getting you somewhere safe. Where? He found me in Portland. He found me here. There's nowhere he can't. We'll figure it out. But first, police. They need to see this. He made the call, his voice steady despite the fear coursing through him. The dispatcher took down the information and promised officers would be there within 20 minutes. While they waited, Ryan called Mrs. Patterson and asked her to keep Lily a while longer. Then he called his neighbor down the hall, a retired Marine named Dave who had always been friendly, and asked him to come over and stay with Mia while Ryan reviewed the security footage with the building manager. Marcus, Dave said grimly when Ryan explained the situation. "I've heard that name before. Your girl's ex, right? He's been stalking her for months. Now he's breaking into apartments." Jesus. Dave cracked his knuckles. "You want me to take care of this? I know some guys who—" "No." Ryan held up a hand. "We do this by the book. Police, lawyers, courts. I won't give him any excuse to play the victim. Your call. But if he shows his face around here, I can't promise I won't do something about it." Ryan appreciated the sentiment more than he could express. The police arrived, took photos of the flowers and the note, dusted for fingerprints, and asked Mia a series of questions that made her relive the worst moments of her relationship with Marcus. Ryan stood beside her the entire time, his hand on her back, a silent reminder that she wasn't alone. When the officers finally left, promising to review the security footage and add this incident to the growing file, Mia collapsed onto the couch. "He's never going to stop," she said, her voice hollow. "No matter what we do, he's never going to stop." Ryan sat beside her, took her hands in his. "Then we make him stop. We get a better security system. We move if we have to. We build a case so strong that he goes to prison for years. We do whatever it takes. And if that's not enough?" He looked into her eyes, saw the fear there, the exhaustion, the edge of despair. "Then we find something else, something that works. Because I am not losing you, Mia Bennett. Not to him, not to anyone. Do you understand me?" Something flickered in her expression, surprise maybe, or hope. "You really mean that?" "I have never meant anything more in my life." She was quiet for a long moment, then slowly she nodded. "Okay," she said. "Okay. We figure it out, together. Together." That night, Mia stayed at Ryan's apartment. They pushed the couch against the door, checked the windows 3 times, and lay awake in the darkness, listening to every sound. But somewhere in the small hours of the morning, exhaustion finally won. Mia fell asleep with her head on Ryan's chest, her breathing slow and even, and Ryan allowed himself to close his eyes. Tomorrow, they would deal with reality. Tomorrow, they would make plans and calls and decisions. But tonight, for just a few hours, they were safe. And sometimes, that was enough. The security footage revealed nothing. Ryan stood in the building manager's cramped office the next morning, staring at the grainy monitor with growing disbelief. The cameras had captured every person who entered and exited the building the previous day. Delivery drivers, mail carriers, the usual parade of residents coming and going. But there was no sign of Marcus, no unfamiliar face lingering in the lobby, no one who shouldn't have been there. "I don't understand," the manager said, rewinding the footage for the 3rd time. "The only way into your apartment is through the main entrance or the fire escape, and both of those are on camera." "Then how did someone get in?" "I don't know. Unless—" the manager hesitated. "Unless they had a key." Ryan's blood ran cold. "A key?" "Look, I'm not saying that's what happened, but these locks aren't exactly state-of-the-art. Someone with the right skills could pick them in under a minute. Or they could have gotten a copy somehow, bribed a maintenance worker, stolen a master from the office when no one was looking." He shrugged helplessly. "I'm sorry. I wish I could tell you more." Ryan left the office with a knot in his stomach that refused to loosen. Marcus had found a way in, had stood in the apartment where Lily slept, where Ryan and Mia had begun building a life together. And no one had seen him. No one knew how he'd done it, which meant he could do it again. That afternoon, Ryan called a locksmith and had every lock in the apartment replaced with high-security deadbolts. He installed a chain lock and a door reinforcement bar. He ordered a security camera for the hallway outside his door, one that would send alerts directly to his phone whenever motion was detected. Mia watched him work, her arms wrapped around herself, a haunted look in her eyes. "He's won," she said quietly. "He wanted me to be afraid, and I am. He wanted me to feel like I'm never safe, and I don't." Ryan set down his screwdriver and crossed the room to her. "This isn't winning. This is desperation. He's escalating because he knows he's losing you, really losing you, and he can't handle it." He took her hands in his. "We're going to get through this. The police have the note, the flowers, the documentation of his previous violations. They're building a case. Cases take months, years. What do we do in the meantime? Live in a bunker? Never go outside?" We live our lives, carefully, yes, but we don't let him take everything from us. That's what he wants. Mia's eyes filled with tears. I'm so tired, Ryan. I'm so tired of being scared. I thought I was done with this. I thought when I left him, when I came back to Seattle, when I started over with you, I thought I was finally free. You will be. I promise you, Mia. One way or another, you will be free of him. She leaned into him, and he held her while she cried, feeling the weight of everything she was carrying, wishing he could take it from her. Lily appeared in the doorway, Mr. Trunk clutched to her chest. Why is Miss Mia sad? Ryan looked at his daughter, at the concern on her small face, and felt his heart break a little more. She's just having a hard day, sweetheart. Sometimes grown-ups get scared too. Lily walked over and took Mia's hand. When I'm scared, Daddy reads me stories, and then I don't feel so scared anymore. She tugged gently. Do you want me to read you a story, Miss Mia? I can't read all the words yet, but I can look at the pictures and make up what happens. Mia laughed despite her tears, a watery sound that carried both pain and gratitude. I would love that, Lily. I would love that very much. They sat on the couch together, the little girl and the woman she had decided to love, and Lily pulled out her favorite picture book and began spinning elaborate tales about the animals on each page. Ryan watched them from the kitchen, his throat tight with emotion. This was what Marcus was trying to destroy, this fragile, beautiful thing they were building. This family that had formed from broken pieces that was learning to hold together despite everything. He wouldn't let it happen. Whatever it took, he wouldn't let it happen. The following week, Mia made a decision. I'm going back to get my things, she announced over breakfast. From the old apartment, the one I shared with Marcus. Ryan set down his coffee cup. What are you talking about? You moved out months ago. Not everything. There are still boxes in storage, things I couldn't face dealing with when I first left. Photos of my family, some of my mother's jewelry, books that have been in my family for generations. She met his eyes. He's been holding them hostage. Every time I tried to arrange a pickup, he found a way to cancel or delay, and I'm done waiting. Mia, that's not a good idea. Not right now. It's never going to be a good idea. There's never going to be a perfect time when he's not dangerous, when I'm not scared. Her jaw set. But those are my things, my memories, and I'm not letting him keep them just because he thinks he has power over me. Then let me go. Or we'll send someone else. Movers, a lawyer, anyone but you. No, I need to do this myself. She reached across the table and took his hand. Don't you see? As long as there's still something of mine in that apartment, some part of me is still tied to him. I need to cut that last thread. I need to take back what's mine and walk away knowing there's nothing left for him to hold over me. Ryan understood. He didn't like it. Every protective instinct in his body was screaming at him to stop her, to keep her safe, but he understood. Then I'm coming with you, he said. And so is your cousin, Elena. We go together, we pack fast, and we get out. No arguments. Mia nodded slowly. Okay, that's fair. When? Saturday. He's supposed to be at work until 6. Elena's driving up from Portland Friday night. We can be in and out in a couple of hours. Ryan's mind was already calculating risks, planning contingencies. I'll ask Mrs. Patterson to watch Lily, and I'll have my phone on me the entire time. If anything feels wrong, anything at all, we leave immediately. Agreed. They sealed the plan with a kiss that tasted like fear and determination, and Ryan spent the rest of the week trying not to think about everything that could go wrong. Friday arrived faster than Ryan expected. Elena pulled up to the building in a rental U-Haul, a small woman with Mia's dark hair and a fierce expression that suggested she was more than ready for whatever Saturday would bring. So you're the one, she said, sizing Ryan up with sharp eyes. The guy who finally showed my cousin what a real man looks like. Ryan shifted uncomfortably. I don't know about that. I do. Elena's face softened slightly. She tells me everything, you know, about how you took her in that night, how you didn't ask questions, how you've been there for her every step of the way. She extended her hand. Thank you for seeing her, for helping her see herself. She did the hard work. I just was there. Sometimes being there is the hardest work of all. Elena shook his hand firmly. Now, let's go over the plan for tomorrow. I want to know every exit, every timeline, every possible complication. They spent the evening planning and replanning, going over maps of the old building, discussing what to do if Marcus came home early, how to handle confrontation if it arose. Mia sat quietly through most of it, her face pale but determined. When Elena finally went to bed in the spare room, Mia turned to Ryan. Thank you for this. For supporting me, even though I know you think it's a terrible idea. I think it's a brave idea. There's a difference. He pulled her close. I'm scared for you, but I'm also proud of you. You're taking back your life piece by piece. I couldn't do it without you. You could. You're stronger than you know. She was quiet for a long moment, her head resting against his chest. When this is over, when Marcus is finally out of our lives for good, I want to start fresh, really fresh. No more looking over my shoulder, no more waiting for the other shoe to drop. Just us, building something new. I want that too. I know. She looked up at him, her eyes shining. I know you do. That's why I love you. They held each other in the darkness, neither of them sleeping, both of them thinking about what tomorrow would bring. Saturday morning dawned gray and overcast, the clouds hanging low over the city as if the weather itself sensed the tension in the air. They arrived at the old apartment building just after 10, when Marcus should have been safely at his office across town. The building looked different in daylight, smaller somehow, and shabbier than Ryan had expected. The kind of place that accumulated stories in its walls, not all of them happy. Mia stood on the sidewalk for a long moment, staring up at the fourth-floor window that had once been hers. You okay? Elena asked, touching her arm. I thought I'd feel more. Coming back here. Mia's voice was distant. But I just feel empty, like this place has nothing to do with me anymore. That's because it doesn't. You've moved on. This is just loose ends. Loose ends, Mia nodded. Let's tie them up. They climbed the stairs to the fourth floor, Ryan in front, Elena behind, Mia sandwiched between them. The hallway smelled like old carpet and stale air, and Ryan felt his skin prickle as they approached door 4B. Keys? He asked. Mia produced them from her pocket. She'd kept them all this time, just in case. Her hand trembled slightly as she inserted the key in the lock. The door swung open. The apartment was almost empty. Ryan had expected to find it preserved as Mia had left it, frozen in time, a monument to the relationship that had nearly destroyed her. Instead, the living room was bare except for a few scattered pieces of furniture. The walls were stripped of pictures, the shelves emptied of books, the kitchen cleaned of everything that had once made it a home. He moved out, Mia breathed. He actually moved out. Where did he go? Elena asked, her voice tight with suspicion. I don't know. I don't care. Mia stepped further into the apartment, her eyes scanning every corner. The storage unit is in the basement. That's where my things are. We grab the boxes, we leave, and we never come back. They found the basement storage unit exactly where Mia remembered it, a small cage crammed with cardboard boxes, dust-covered and forgotten. It took them less than an hour to carry everything up to the U-Haul, working in efficient silence, each of them hyper-aware of every sound, every footstep, every possibility of interruption. But no one came. By noon, the storage unit was empty, the U-Haul was loaded, and they were ready to go. That's it, Mia said, standing in the parking lot and looking up at the building one last time. That's the last of it. How do you feel? Ryan asked. Free? She turned to face him, and there were tears on her cheeks, but she was smiling. I feel free. They piled into the U-Haul, Elena driving, Mia in the middle, Ryan by the window, and pulled out of the parking lot. The building receded in the side mirror, growing smaller and smaller until it disappeared around a corner. Gone. Finally gone. I need to stop for gas, Elena said, pulling into a station about halfway back to Ryan's neighborhood. Anyone want anything from inside? I'll come with you, Mia said. I need to stretch my legs. Ryan watched them walk toward the convenience store, two women who had survived so much, who had helped each other survive. He pulled out his phone to check for messages and found one from Mrs. Patterson. Lily's fine. We're making cookies. Take your time. He smiled, allowing himself to relax for the first time since they'd started this mission. It was over. They'd gotten Mia's things without incident. Marcus hadn't appeared, hadn't confronted them, hadn't done anything to... The passenger door flew open. Ryan turned, expecting to see Mia, but the face that greeted him was one he'd hoped never to see again. Marcus. He looked worse than Ryan remembered, gaunt and unshaven, his eyes wild with something that looked like madness. He was wearing a rumpled suit, as if he'd come straight from work, and there was a desperate energy radiating from him that made Ryan's blood run cold. "Where is she?" Marcus demanded. "I know she's here. I've been following you all morning." Ryan's heart was pounding, but he kept his voice steady. "Marcus, you need to leave. There's a restraining order." "I don't care about the restraining order." Marcus's voice rose, cracking at the edges. "I don't care about any of that. She belongs to me. She's always belonged to me, and you," he jabbed a finger at Ryan, "you came in and poisoned her against me, made her think she could just walk away like everything we had meant nothing. Everything you had." Ryan's own anger was rising now, burning through the fear. "You controlled her, you isolated her, you threw things at her. That's not love, Marcus, that's abuse. You don't know anything about us. You don't know what we had, what we could still have if you would just stay out of it." Marcus was shaking now, his fists clenched at his sides. "Tell me where she is. Tell me, or I swear." "You'll what? Hit me? The way you hit her?" Something snapped in Marcus's face, the last thread of restraint giving way to pure rage. He lunged at Ryan, hands reaching for his throat. Ryan was ready. He blocked the first grab, deflecting Marcus's arm and twisting out of the cab. They grappled on the asphalt, Marcus swinging wildly, Ryan blocking and dodging, trying to subdue without escalating. "Stop!" Ryan shouted. "Just stop! It's over, Marcus! She doesn't want you!" "She doesn't know what she wants. She never did. I had to make every decision for her, take care of her. That's not taking care of someone. That's controlling them." Marcus got a lucky shot in, a fist to Ryan's cheek that sent stars exploding across his vision. But the blow cost Marcus his balance, and Ryan used the opening to push him back, putting distance between them. "Ryan!" Mia's voice cut through the chaos. She was running across the parking lot, Elena right behind her, her phone already pressed to her ear. "Police are on their way!" Elena shouted. "Marcus, it's over!" But Marcus wasn't listening. His eyes had locked onto Mia with a hunger that made Ryan's stomach turn. "Mia," he breathed, and suddenly the rage was gone, replaced by something that might have been tenderness if it wasn't so twisted. "Baby, I knew you'd come back. I knew you couldn't stay away forever." Mia stopped 10 feet away, her body rigid, her face pale. "I didn't come back for you," she said, her voice shaking but clear. "I came to get my things, the last pieces of my life that you were holding hostage. And now I have them, and I'm leaving, and you are never going to contact me again." "You don't mean that." "I have never meant anything more." Mia's chin lifted. "I'm not afraid of you anymore, Marcus. You have no power over me. You have no hold on me. You are nothing to me." Marcus flinched as if she'd struck him. "You can't just... After everything I did for you, what you did to me. There's a difference." Mia's voice was growing stronger with every word. "You made me small. You made me doubt myself. You made me believe I was nothing without you. But I'm not nothing. I'm someone who survived you. I'm someone who's building a life you can't touch. And I'm someone who's surrounded by people who actually love me, who don't need to control me or hurt me to keep me close." She moved to stand beside Ryan, taking his hand, and together they faced Marcus. "You lost," Mia said simply. "Accept it and move on. Because if you don't, if you ever come near me or Ryan or his daughter again, I will make sure you spend the rest of your life regretting it." For a long moment, no one moved. Then Marcus's face crumpled. The rage, the desperation, the madness, all of it collapsed into something broken and pathetic. He sank to his knees on the asphalt, his head bowed, his shoulders shaking. "I loved you," he whispered. "I just wanted you to love me back." "You don't know how to love," Mia replied, and there was no cruelty in her voice, only truth. "You only know how to possess, and I hope someday you learn the difference, but you're not going to learn it from me." Sirens wailed in the distance, growing closer. Elena stepped forward, her phone still recording, documenting everything for the legal case that was about to become much stronger. "It's over, Marcus," she said. "The police are coming. You violated your restraining order multiple times. You assaulted Ryan, and we have it all on video. You're done." Marcus didn't respond. He stayed on his knees, broken, as two police cruisers pulled into the parking lot, their lights flashing. The officers took control quickly, handcuffing Marcus, separating everyone for statements, calling for backup to transport the suspect. Ryan answered their questions mechanically, his cheek throbbing where Marcus had hit him, his mind still processing everything that had happened. When it was finally over, when Marcus was in the back of a police car and the officers had taken down all the information they needed, Mia turned to Ryan. "You're hurt," she said, reaching up to touch his face. "I'm fine." "You're bleeding." "It's nothing." He caught her hand, held it against his cheek. "It's over, Mia. It's really over." She stared at him for a long moment, her eyes filling with tears. "He's going to prison this time. With all the documentation, the video, the assault charge, there's no way he's getting out of this." "No, there's not. I'm free." She said it like she couldn't quite believe it. "I'm actually free." "You're free." She threw her arms around him, and he held her tight, right there in the gas station parking lot, with the police lights still flashing and Elena crying happy tears and the whole world feeling different than it had an hour ago. "Take me home," Mia whispered against his chest. "Which home?" She pulled back and looked at him, her face streaked with tears but radiant with something that looked like joy. "Yours, ours, wherever you and Lily are. That's home now." They climbed back into the U-Haul, all three of them shaky with adrenaline and relief, and drove through the streets of Seattle toward a future that finally felt possible. When they arrived at the apartment building, Lily was waiting in the lobby with Mrs. Patterson, a plate of fresh cookies in her hands. "Daddy!" She ran to Ryan, then stopped short when she saw his face. "What happened? Are you hurt? Did the angry man—" "The angry man isn't going to bother us anymore," Ryan said, crouching down to her level. "He made some very bad choices, and now he has to go away for a long time." "To jail?" "To jail." Lily nodded solemnly, then turned to Mia. "Are you okay, Miss Mia?" Mia knelt beside her, taking the little girl's hands. "I'm okay, sweetheart. Better than okay. Because I have you and your daddy." She glanced up at Ryan, her eyes shining. "Because I have a family." Lily's face broke into a brilliant smile. "Does that mean you're going to stay forever?" Mia looked at Ryan. He looked back at her. "Yeah," she said softly. "I think it does." Lily cheered and threw her arms around both of them, and they stood in the lobby of their apartment building, the three of them tangled together, holding on to something that felt unbreakable. Mrs. Patterson dabbed at her eyes with a tissue. "Well," she said, "I suppose this calls for more cookies." They laughed. All of them. Even Ryan, even through the pain in his cheek and the exhaustion in his bones. And the sound echoed through the lobby, filling the space with something that had been missing for far too long. Hope. Real, genuine, hard-won hope. They took the elevator upstairs, Lily chattering about her day of cookie making, Elena carrying the first of many boxes from the U-Haul, Mia's hand firmly clasped in Ryan's. When they reached the apartment, their apartment, Ryan thought, with a warmth that spread through his entire body, Lily insisted on giving everyone a tour, as if they hadn't all been there dozens of times before. "This is the kitchen, where Daddy makes the best pancakes. And this is the living room, where we watch movies. And this is my room, where Mr. Trunk lives. Mr. Trunk, Miss Mia is staying forever now. Isn't that wonderful?" The stuffed elephant, propped up on Lily's pillow, seemed to approve. Later, after Elena had left for her hotel room and Lily was asleep with Mr. Trunk in her arms, Ryan and Mia sat on the couch in the darkness, the city lights glittering through the window. "What happens now?" Mia asked. "Whatever we want." Ryan pulled her closer. "That's the beautiful thing about freedom. We get to choose." She was quiet for a long moment. "I want to choose you," she said finally. "Every day, for as long as you'll let me." "Then that's what we'll do." He kissed the top of her head. "For as long as we both shall live." It wasn't a proposal, not quite, not yet, but it was a promise. And in the quiet darkness of the apartment, with the weight of the past finally lifted and the future stretching out before them, that promise felt like everything. The weeks following Marcus's arrest were strange and disorienting, like stepping out of a storm into sudden, unexpected stillness. Mia found herself waking each morning with a moment of confusion, that half second before consciousness fully returned when she would tense, waiting for the familiar dread to settle over her. But the dread didn't come. Instead, there was soft morning light filtering through unfamiliar curtains, the distant sound of Ryan making coffee in the kitchen, and sometimes, if she was lucky, the patter of small feet and Lily's voice asking if Miss Mia wanted to see the picture she'd drawn. It was peace, and it felt almost like a foreign language she was learning to speak again. The legal proceedings moved faster than anyone had expected. Marcus's lawyer had initially tried to argue for reduced charges, claiming temporary insanity, emotional distress, a moment of poor judgment. But the evidence was overwhelming. The documentation of months of stalking, the violation of the restraining order, the break-in at Ryan's apartment, the assault at the gas station, all captured on Elena's phone with damning clarity. The prosecutor was a woman named Sandra Chen, a veteran of domestic violence cases who looked at Mia with understanding eyes during their first meeting. "He's not going to hurt you again," she said, her voice carrying the weight of a promise she'd made to countless women before. "We have enough to put him away for years. The only question is how many." In the end, it was 7. 7 years for stalking, harassment, assault, and repeated violations of a restraining order. The judge, an older woman with silver hair and a no-nonsense demeanor, delivered the sentence without ceremony. "Mr. Davis," she said, looking at Marcus with something that might have been pity if it hadn't been so cold, "you had every opportunity to walk away, to respect the boundaries that were set, to allow your former partner to live her life in peace. Instead, you chose to pursue, to terrorize, to assault. These are not the actions of someone who loves another person. These are the actions of someone who believes they own another person. And in this court, we do not tolerate ownership of human beings." Marcus stood motionless throughout the sentencing, his face blank, his eyes fixed on some point in the middle distance. He didn't look at Mia, didn't acknowledge her presence in the courtroom. It was as if she had already ceased to exist for him, or as if he was finally accepting that she never really belonged to him at all. When the bailiff led him away, Mia felt something release in her chest, a knot she hadn't even realized she'd been carrying, finally loosening after months of tension. Ryan took her hand. "It's done," he said softly. "It's done," she repeated, and the words felt like magic, like an incantation that could make the nightmare finally end. They walked out of the courthouse into brilliant autumn sunshine, the kind of October day that made Seattle feel like the most beautiful city in the world. The trees were turning gold and red, the air was crisp with the promise of change, and for the first time in what felt like years, Mia could breathe without fear. Elena was waiting for them on the courthouse steps, having flown up from Portland for the sentencing. She threw her arms around Mia the moment she saw her. "It's over," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "You're free. Really, truly free." "I am." Mia pulled back, wiping tears from her eyes. "I really am." "So what now?" Mia looked at Ryan, at the man who had stood beside her through everything, the fear, the uncertainty, the darkness. The man who had opened his door without questions on the worst night of her life and had never stopped showing up for her since. "Now," she said, "we live." The months that followed were a study in healing. Mia continued her therapy, working through the layers of trauma that Marcus had inflicted, learning to recognize the patterns of thought he had planted in her mind and to replace them with something healthier. It wasn't easy. Some days she still found herself second-guessing her own perceptions, still caught herself apologizing for things that didn't require apology, still tensed at unexpected sounds or sudden movements. But the bad days grew fewer, and the good days grew more frequent, and slowly, gradually, she began to recognize herself again. The woman she had been before Marcus, the woman she was becoming after. Ryan was patient through all of it. He didn't push her to heal faster or demand that she be okay when she wasn't. He simply existed alongside her, steady and present, offering support without conditions and love without expectations. "You don't have to be strong all the time," he told her one evening when she was struggling, when the weight of everything felt too heavy to carry. You don't have to pretend you're okay when you're not. That's not what being in a relationship means. Then what does it mean? It means we carry things together, the good stuff and the bad stuff. It means you can fall apart sometimes, and I'll be here to help put you back together. And it means you'll do the same for me when I need it. Have you ever needed it to fall apart? Ryan was quiet for a moment. After Sarah left, he said finally, I fell apart completely. I didn't know how to be a father on my own. I didn't know how to be anything on my own. I spent months just going through the motions, taking care of Lily because she needed me, but feeling like I was drowning inside. What changed? Time, therapy. Learning that I was stronger than I thought. He met her eyes, and eventually meeting you. Realizing that my heart was still capable of loving someone, even after everything, that I wasn't as broken as I believed. Mia reached out and took his hand. We're both a little broken, she said. But maybe that's okay. Maybe the broken pieces fit together somehow. Maybe they do. They sat together in the gathering darkness, and Mia thought about how strange life was, how the worst moments could lead to the best ones, how pain could transform into something beautiful if you were brave enough to let it. Lily, meanwhile, was thriving. She had started first grade in September, full of excitement about learning to read real books and making new friends, and finally being one of the big kids. She came home every afternoon bursting with stories about her teacher, her classmates, the elaborate dramas unfolding on the playground that seemed as complex and consequential as anything in the adult world. And she had accepted Mia into her life with the wholehearted enthusiasm that only a 6-year-old could muster. Miss Mia, look at what I made today, became a daily refrain, followed by the presentation of various artistic creations, crayon drawings, finger paintings, sculptures made from pipe cleaners, and cotton balls that defied easy categorization. Miss Mia, can you help me with my reading? Daddy tries, but he does the voices wrong. Miss Mia, do you think Mr. Trunk would like a friend? Because there's an elephant at the store that looks just like him, and I think they'd be best friends. Mia treasured every moment, every request, every small intimacy that Lily offered. She had never imagined herself as a mother, had spent so long with Marcus that she'd almost forgotten she was allowed to want things for herself. But now, watching this remarkable little girl grow and change and reach out to her with trust and affection, she felt something shift in her heart. She wanted this, all of it, the chaos and the love and the small, everyday moments that added up to a life. One evening in late November, Ryan came home from work to find Mia and Lily in the middle of a fancy dinner party for the stuffed animals. Mr. Trunk was seated at the head of a small table made from cardboard boxes, surrounded by a menagerie of guests ranging from a purple unicorn to a slightly bedraggled teddy bear missing one eye. What's all this? Ryan asked, trying to suppress a smile. Daddy, you're late, Lily announced. The appetizers are already over, but you can have some dessert. We're having pretend cheesecake. Pretend cheesecake, my favorite. He sat down cross-legged on the floor, accepting a plate of imaginary dessert from his daughter with appropriate gravity. Mia watched him, this man who could spend a day designing buildings and then come home and play stuffed animal dinner party without missing a beat, and felt her heart swell with love so intense it was almost painful. After Lily was in bed that night, her stuffed animals arranged around her in careful formation, Ryan and Mia sat on the couch in their usual spot, the city lights glittering through the window. I've been thinking, Ryan said. About what? About the future. About us. He shifted to face her. Mia, you've been staying here almost every night for months. You have a drawer full of clothes in my dresser. Your toothbrush is in the bathroom. Lily asks for you when you're not here. Are you saying I've overstayed my welcome? I'm saying the opposite. He took her hands. I'm saying I don't want you to have a separate apartment anymore. I don't want you to be a guest in my life. I want you to be part of it. Officially. Permanently. Mia's breath caught. Ryan, are you asking me to move in? I'm asking you to come home. His voice was soft. I'm asking you to be part of this family. To be Lily's. Whatever you want to be. To be mine, if you'll have me. She was crying now, tears sliding down her cheeks, but she was also smiling. Yes, she said. Yes, 1,000 times yes. He kissed her, and the kiss tasted like promises and beginnings and all the things they hadn't dared to hope for when this started. When they broke apart, Mia laughed, wiping her eyes. Lily's going to be thrilled. Lily's been asking me when you're going to live with us forever. I think her exact words were, "Daddy, why doesn't Miss Mia just stay? Then she can make pancakes every day." My pancakes are nowhere near as good as yours. Don't tell her that. She thinks you're perfect. Mia's smile softened. And what do you think? I think you're exactly what we needed. What I needed. Ryan brushed a strand of hair from her face. I spent years thinking I had everything figured out. Lily and me, our little bubble, safe from anything that could hurt us. But then you knocked on my door and everything changed, and I'm so glad it did. Even with everything that came with me, all the fear and the drama and Marcus, even with all of that, because all of that led to this, to us, to right now. He pulled her close. I wouldn't change a single thing. They held each other on the couch as the night deepened around them, and Mia thought about how far she'd come, from the woman who had fled in terror with nothing but a backpack, to the woman who was about to start a new life with the man she loved and the little girl who had claimed her heart. It was more than she had ever dared to dream. The winter holidays arrived with all their usual chaos and joy. Mia's move into the apartment was complete by early December. Her belongings merged with Ryan's in a way that felt natural and right. The space that had once seemed perfectly sized for a single father and his daughter now hummed with new energy, a woman's presence, a second voice, another pair of hands to share the work and the love. They hosted Christmas Eve dinner, a small gathering that included Elena, Mrs. Patterson from down the hall, and Ryan's mother, who had flown in from Arizona for the occasion. The apartment was crowded and warm, filled with the smell of roasting turkey and the sound of laughter and Lily's excited chatter about what Santa might bring. Ryan's mother, a silver-haired woman named Janet, who carried herself with quiet dignity, pulled Mia aside during a quiet moment in the kitchen. "I want to thank you," she said. Mia blinked. "For what?" "For bringing my son back to life." Janet's eyes were bright with unshed tears. After Sarah left, I watched him close himself off. He focused everything on Lily, which was admirable, but he stopped living for himself. He stopped believing he deserved happiness. She took Mia's hands. And then he started talking about you, about this neighbor who had become a friend, about how she needed help and he was there for her. And I heard something in his voice I hadn't heard in years. Hope. Mia swallowed hard. He saved me, too. He doesn't see it that way, but he did. You saved each other. That's how the best love stories work. Janet squeezed her hands. Welcome to the family, Mia. We're so glad you're here. Later that night, after the guests had left and Lily was finally asleep, having been allowed to open one present early, as was family tradition, Ryan and Mia stood at the window, looking out at the snow that had begun to fall over the city. Happy Christmas Eve, Ryan said. Happy Christmas Eve. Mia leaned against him. This is the best one I've ever had. Better than childhood, Santa and stockings and all that magic? Better than all of it, because this is real. This is ours. She looked up at him. Thank you for this. For everything. You don't have to thank me. I know, but I want to. She turned in his arms so she was facing him. I want you to know how much this means to me. Finding you. Finding Lily. Finding a home I didn't know I was looking for. Ryan was quiet for a moment, his expression thoughtful. I have something for you, he said. I was going to wait until tomorrow, but I don't think I can. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. Mia's heart stopped. Ryan, I know it's fast, he said, the words coming in a rush. I know you've been through so much and you might need more time. And if you do, I understand completely. But I love you, Mia. I love you in a way I didn't know I could love anyone, and I want to spend the rest of my life with you. Not because I need you to complete me, but because life is better with you in it. Everything is better with you in it. He opened the box to reveal a simple diamond ring, elegant and understated, exactly the kind of ring Mia would have chosen for herself. Mia Bennett, will you marry me? She was crying. She was laughing. She was nodding so hard her vision blurred. Yes, she managed to say. Yes, Yes, yes. He slipped the ring onto her finger, a perfect fit. And then he was kissing her. And the snow was falling outside the window, and somewhere in the apartment, a little girl was dreaming of Christmas morning, and everything felt exactly right. When they finally broke apart, both of them breathless and grinning like teenagers, Mia looked at the ring glittering on her finger. How are we going to tell Lily? I think she's going to be okay with it, Ryan smiled. She's been leaving hints for weeks. Last Thursday, she asked me if there was such a thing as a getting a new mommy ceremony. Mia laughed through her tears. That girl is something else. She's ours, Ryan said simply. She's ours, and you're mine, and I'm yours. And that's all that matters. They spent the rest of the night talking and planning and dreaming, the ring catching the light every time Mia moved her hand, a constant reminder that this was real, that she was engaged, that she was going to marry the man who had shown her what love was supposed to look like. Christmas morning arrived in an explosion of wrapping paper and excited squeals. Lily tore through her presents with the enthusiasm of a 6-year-old who had been promised that Santa knew exactly what she wanted. There were books and games and a new dress for Mr. Trunk, and at the bottom of her stocking, a small charm bracelet with 3 charms: an elephant, a heart, and a tiny house. What does it mean? Lily asked, holding it up to the light. Ryan and Mia exchanged a look. It means, Mia said, kneeling down to Lily's level, that your daddy and I have something to tell you, something special. Lily's eyes went wide. Is it about the ring? I saw Daddy hiding it. He's not very good at secrets. Ryan groaned. I'm going to have to work on that. The ring, Mia continued, holding out her hand so Lily could see, means that your daddy asked me to marry him, and I said yes, which means, if you're okay with it, I'm going to be part of your family. Forever. For a moment, Lily was perfectly still, her eyes moving from the ring to Mia's face to Ryan's and back again. Then she launched herself at Mia with such force that they both tumbled backward onto the floor. Yes, Lily shouted, her small arms wrapped around Mia's neck. Yes, 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 yes. You're going to be my mommy. I knew it. Mr. Trunk said it would happen, and he was right. Mia held the little girl close, her heart so full it felt like it might burst. I'm going to try to be the best mommy I can be, she whispered. I might not always get it right, but I'm going to try. You're already the best, Lily said with the absolute certainty of a child. You're already the best mommy in the whole world. Ryan joined them on the floor, wrapping his arms around both of them, and they stayed like that for a long time. 3 people who had found each other against all odds, holding on to something precious and real and full of promise. The wedding took place in late spring, when Seattle was blooming with cherry blossoms and the days were long and golden. They kept it small. Family and close friends gathered in a garden venue overlooking the water. Elena stood as Mia's maid of honor, crying happy tears throughout the ceremony. Ryan's best friend from college, a gentle giant named Marcus, a different Marcus, one who made Mia laugh instead of flinch, served as best man. And Lily, of course, was the flower girl, taking her duties with tremendous seriousness as she scattered rose petals down the aisle with Mr. Trunk tucked under one arm. Mia wore a simple white dress that Elena had helped her choose. Nothing elaborate, nothing fussy, just something that made her feel like herself. Her hair was down, the way Ryan liked it, and she carried a small bouquet of wildflowers that Lily had helped select. Walking down the aisle, she saw Ryan waiting for her at the altar, his eyes shining with tears he wasn't trying to hide. And she thought about how strange and wonderful life was. How the worst night of her life had led her to knock on a door that changed everything. How fear had transformed into love, and running had led her home. The vows they exchanged were simple but heartfelt. I promise to be your partner, Ryan said, his voice steady despite the emotion in his eyes. In joy and in sorrow, in sickness and in health. I promise to listen when you need to talk and to sit quietly when you need silence. I promise to make you laugh, to hold you when you cry, and to remind you every single day that you are worthy of love. Real love, the kind that doesn't hurt. Mia's voice trembled as she spoke her own vows. I promise to choose you, she said. Every day, in every way. I promise to be brave when I'm scared and honest when I'm struggling. I promise to love your daughter as my own, to build a home with you that's full of warmth and safety and joy. And I promise to never ever take for granted the miracle of finding you when I needed you most." When the officiant pronounced them husband and wife, Ryan kissed her with a tenderness that made her knees weak, and the small crowd erupted in cheers and applause. They walked back down the aisle together, hand in hand, Lily running alongside them with rice in her hair and the biggest smile on her face. "We're a real family now," she announced to anyone who would listen. "Daddy and Miss Mia and me and Mr. Trunk, we're official." The reception was full of laughter and dancing and toast that made Mia cry happy tears. Elena gave a speech about courage and second chances. Janet talked about watching her son come back to life. And Lily, who had insisted on giving her own toast despite being 6 years old, stood on a chair and declared that this was the best day ever and that everyone should eat more cake. As the sun began to set over the water, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, Ryan and Mia stole away to a quiet corner of the garden. "How does it feel?" he asked. "Being a wife?" "Terrifying," she admitted, "and wonderful, and absolutely right." She looked up at him. "How does it feel being married to someone with as much baggage as me?" "It feels like I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be." He tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. "You know, that night you knocked on my door, I had no idea what was going to happen. I just knew you needed help, and I could give it. I never imagined it would lead to this." "Neither did I. I thought I was just surviving, getting through one night so I could figure out the next day." She shook her head. "I never imagined I could be this happy, that I deserved to be this happy." "You deserve all of it. Everything good that comes your way, you deserve it." Ryan's voice was fierce. "And I'm going to spend the rest of my life making sure you never forget that." They kissed as the last light of day faded into twilight, and somewhere behind them, Lily was trying to teach Mr. Trunk to dance while the DJ played a song about forever. It was, Mia thought, the perfect ending. Except it wasn't an ending at all. It was a beginning. A year later, on a crisp autumn morning, almost exactly 2 years after Mia had first knocked on Ryan's door, she sat at the kitchen table, staring at a small plastic stick in her hands. 2 pink lines. Her heart was racing, her mind spinning with possibilities and fears and hopes so intense they were almost painful. "What are you looking at?" She jumped, nearly dropping the stick. Ryan was standing in the doorway, his hair still mussed from sleep, a cup of coffee in his hand. She couldn't find the words. He crossed the kitchen and looked at what she was holding. For a moment, he was perfectly still. Then his face broke into a smile so brilliant it could have lit up the entire city. "Is that what I think it is?" 2 lines. That means we're having a baby." He set down his coffee and pulled her into his arms. "Mia, we're having a baby." "Are you happy?" she asked, her voice muffled against his chest. Happy doesn't even begin to cover it. He pulled back to look at her face, his eyes shining. "How do you feel?" "Scared? Excited? Overwhelmed?" She laughed shakily. "All of the above?" "That sounds about right." He kissed her forehead. "We should tell Lily." "What if she's not happy about it? What if she doesn't want to share us?" "She's been asking for a baby brother or sister for months. Trust me, she's going to be thrilled." They told Lily at breakfast, and Ryan was right. She was beyond thrilled. She immediately began making plans for how she would teach the baby to read and introduced it to Mr. Trunk and be the best big sister in the whole world. "But what if it's a boy?" she asked suddenly, her brow furrowing. "Boys are kind of weird." "Boys can be wonderful," Mia said. "Your daddy's a boy." "Daddy's different. Daddy's the best." Lily considered this. "Okay, a boy would be okay, but a girl would be better." The pregnancy was easy, as pregnancies went. Some morning sickness in the first trimester, some tiredness in the third, but nothing that felt insurmountable. Mia marveled at the changes in her body, at the life growing inside her, at the way Ryan's hand would rest on her belly at night, feeling for kicks and movements. "I still can't believe this is real," she said one evening, her hand covering his. "Which part?" "All of it. You, Lily, this baby, this life." She turned her head to look at him. 2 years ago, I was trapped in an apartment with a man who made me afraid to breathe. And now you're here, with me, building something beautiful." Ryan kissed her softly. That's not luck, Mia. That's courage. You were brave enough to leave, brave enough to start over, brave enough to love again. You did that, not me. We did it together. Together, yeah, he smiled. That's becoming our word, isn't it? I can think of worse words. The baby arrived on a snowy February morning, a squalling, red-faced miracle with Ryan's eyes and Mia's dark hair. They named him James, after Ryan's father, who had passed away before Lily was born, but whose memory lived on in the stories Janet told and the values Ryan carried. Lily was enchanted from the moment she first held him, her small arms cradling her baby brother with a tenderness that made Mia's heart ache. "He's so tiny," she whispered. "Was I ever this tiny?" "You were even tinier," Ryan said, "and just as loud." "I'm going to teach him everything," Lily declared. "How to read and how to draw and how to have tea parties with Mr. Trunk." She looked up at Mia. "Is that okay, Mommy?" Mommy. Lily had started calling her that shortly after the wedding, the transition from Miss Mia to Mom happening so naturally that it felt like it had always been that way. "That's more than okay, sweetheart. He's lucky to have you as a big sister." They brought James home to an apartment that had somehow expanded to fit their growing family. Cribs and toys and baby blankets everywhere. The chaos of new parenthood mixed with the ongoing energy of a 7-year-old who wanted to help with everything. It was exhausting and overwhelming and absolutely, perfectly wonderful. Some nights, when the baby was finally asleep and Lily was in bed with Mr. Trunk and the apartment was quiet, Mia would stand at the window and look out at the city, thinking about everything that had brought her here. The fear, the flight, the knock on a stranger's door, and everything that had come after. She thought about Marcus sometimes, not with fear anymore, but with something closer to pity. He was still in prison, would be for years yet, and she had heard through the grapevine that he was getting help, finally confronting the demons that had driven him to hurt the people he claimed to love. She hoped it was true, not for his sake, but for the sake of whoever came next. Whoever he might encounter when he eventually rejoined the world. But mostly, she didn't think about him at all. Her life was too full, too overflowing with love and laughter and the beautiful chaos of a family she had never expected to have, for there to be room for old ghosts. On their 3rd anniversary, Ryan surprised her with a trip to the beach, just the two of them, with Janet watching the kids for a long weekend. They walked along the shore as the sun set, their hands intertwined, the waves lapping at their feet. "I have something for you," Ryan said. "Another ring?" she teased. "I think I have enough." "Not a ring." He stopped walking and turned to face her. "More like a promise, an update to our vows." "An update?" "I've been thinking about what I want the next chapter of our lives to look like, and I realized I never told you." He took both her hands. "I want more of this, more quiet moments and loud chaos. More sleepless nights with babies and endless conversations with a daughter who's growing up too fast. More mornings waking up next to you and more evenings falling asleep in your arms. I want all of it, Mia, for as long as we both shall live." She was crying again. She seemed to do that a lot around him, but this time she didn't care. "I want that too," she said. "Everything you just said, all of it." "Then let's make it happen. Whatever comes next, good or bad, easy or hard, we face it together." "Together," she agreed. "Always together." He kissed her as the last light of day painted the sky in shades of gold and rose, and Mia thought about how strange and wonderful life was, how the darkest nights could lead to the brightest dawns, how the worst moments could transform into the best beginnings, how a single knock on a door could change everything. She had been running that night 2.5 years ago. Running from fear, from pain, from a man who had made her forget who she was. But she had run to exactly the right place. She had run home. And she had finally, completely, irrevocably found her way back to herself. As they walked back along the beach, the stars beginning to appear overhead, Mia made a silent promise, to herself, to Ryan, to the children waiting for them at home. She would never stop choosing this, never stop fighting for it, never stop being grateful for every single moment of this beautiful, imperfect, miraculous life they had built from the ashes of her old one. The wall between them, the one that had separated 2 apartments, 2 lives, Two people who didn't know they needed each other, was gone now. In its place was something stronger, a home, a family, a love that had been worth waiting for. And that, Mia thought as she squeezed her husband's hand, was the only ending that mattered, the only beginning that counted, the only story worth telling.